Annabel Purcell, welcome. It's been a few minutes since we had you on last time. You were on a few weeks ago,
Yes.
and
Yep.
it was really enjoyable having you on. And you've got the gift of gab, and that's why I wanted to bring you on for a longer chat because
Yes.
there's too much of your story to fit in a 10-minute video, and we,
I found that too. I
very
I
much so.
found that too. I was like, "Oh, there was so much more that I could have said, but I was I wasn't feeling well during that one. So I'm sorry if it didn't go as smoothly as it
It
should
is what
have."
it is. It is.
Yes.
We just gotta understand your situation and where you are with that. I mean, I have
Hmm.
to put aside more than 10 minutes to read one of your emails. When you
I know.
just for everyone out there
My
and just
mother would love that. Oh
right,
God.
so,
My mother I text my mom and she goes, "Would you stop with the storybooks?" And I'm going, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry, mom." And then I text my father, and then I text my brother, and then I text my sister. So it's always something.
it's a wall of
Uh,
text, and usually I'm trying to, okay, where are we, where's the story, where we got to go through
yeah,
like a whole thing before
a
we get
whole
to where,
scenario.
yeah, where we are. But
Mhm.
that's great because you're an excellent storyteller. People from the East Coast are very well known for that in Canada.
I keep hearing this from people from Vancouver. Someone said you've got the facial expressions, you've got the accent, and I'm going, oh, okay, well, yeah, okay. I'll use my facial expressions, So,
I've just always found
yep.
that people from the maritime provinces just tend to have like a way of telling a story instead of just giving you the facts. You get a whole story about it. It's
We
entertaining. It's very fun to talk with people from
we
the maritime.
embellish and get our hands going, and
It's
oh
great.
yeah, we're great gossips.
So, for everybody who's just tuning in and doesn't know who you are, can you tell us a bit about what's your story and what brings you here in the first place, and then we'll get into everything as far as you
I'm
want.
I'm Annabel Purcell. I'm here because I'm going to Ottawa February 28th. I have it all planned out to push Bill C-22 before they approve MAID for the mentally ill. I'm quite put off by everything, everything that I've been exposed to since I stopped working after being diagnosed with post-stroke headaches and worsening dystonia. That's why I'm sitting on the couch right now. I go for Botox for that on the 13th, and the leg is in a brace and everything. So it is what it is. So I booked the train, the ocean, and I'm going to be there on my 40th anniversary to say, "Hey, Canada, Canada's not broken." Justin Trudeau said that, right? So um, I'm going to have 10 signs. I'm going to, the fact that one can go into their family doctor, put that doctor in a bad conflict of interest, because
Right.
doctors are in place, right? They're in place to promote good health. And I walked into my doctor's office, and I'm with the MAID program, and they're supporting me and going to Ottawa as well. So um, that's wonderful, and I've learned
So before you
I've
get into
learned
the
quite.
details, what is the main purpose of your protest? So you're taking signs, you're going to Ottawa, and what is the main gist of what you're trying to
Impo-
change?
Impoverished Canadians, disabled Canadians who have worked. Um, the Canadian government, CPP disability, is not meeting basic needs. It's not. I'm not afraid to tell you what I'm bringing in a month. It's not enough to eat. It was 7.58. They gave me a $50 raise, Clyde. They gave me a $50
Oh,
raise. I
whoa.
get 807 now. I'm going. keep pushing me. Like,
Did you
keep
cancel?
pushing me.
Did you cancel your Disney Plus? That's the question.
Um,
No,
actually, I
I
did.
only say that
And
because, oh, sorry.
when she said
Okay, yeah. For everyone that
that,
doesn't know
tell me
what I'm
why.
talking about, Christia
Yeah, I
Freeland.
know.
I was talking about the struggles of Canadians and how they could cancel their Disney Plus in order to
Hmm.
make ends meet, as if that really
Yeah.
helps, or as if anybody even has Disney Plus. Perhaps that's the.
Heaven, heaven forbid if we have any entertainment in our lives. Like, I can't, like
Well, yeah,
I'm
even the
at home.
Romans, they had the circus for the people when things got bad. They at least gave them
Yeah.
entertainment. That was the thing. So Joe
Yes.
has some of your
Yeah.
signs up here. I'm gonna pop these up on the screen.
Oh yeah.
These
There
are
you go. Made in Canada.
Yeah,
I'm proud of
that's
these.
some
I came
awesome
up with
signs.
these. CPP disability defined as Canada's punishment plan because I feel punished. I feel punished.
Canada can do better.
Yeah.
Well,
So
Yeah.
like the
They
simple
can't.
ones. They're great.
We're a first world nation. Like, oh, this is can't. Hey Trudeau, why am I out in the snow? Oh boy.
so that's the plan, right? So you're gonna go and it's in the middle of winter, just like protests last year. We're in the middle of winter. It's an unexpected time for someone to go and protest, and you're taking this to the federal government. You're I'm
I'm going
assuming
right to the top. Yeah.
so I'm assuming you're protesting against the new form of MAID. I guess they're opening
Yeah.
up MAID
And
for people who. So
and
just to explain, because I want people to understand what the situation here is with MAID. And MAID was originally brought in to help people that were chronic, like people who were about to,
terminally ill.
yeah,
Yeah.
terminally ill people, and
Yeah.
and um and had no chance, and they're suffering in pain and that. And it was brought in as a humane way of letting people decide for themselves when they get to go, and it's called
And
medical.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. Like, why suffer if you're terminally ill with, like, blastoma or what have you. Like, if it comes to it, like someday it will come to it. I won't be able to move and I'll be ringing the bell. But until that day, I shouldn't have that option. I shouldn't have that option. It's so wrong when they won't meet my basic needs. Bill C-22 now, here I go, Clyde. Bill C-22 has been on the table for 6 years now. It's been read twice in Parliament, and it's approved. It's approved. But
So what's
they
in
can't.
Bill C-22? What is it in Bill
The
C-22 that
disability,
you're
the,
after?
the Canadian disability benefit. So across the country, if you are disabled, you will get this benefit. And they're going back to the days of COVID because they're realizing, oh God, what have we done to our most vulnerable? Like 2 years, 3 years ago, I was worth $2,000 a month. And now I'm worth 800. It doesn't make sense.
So
It doesn't
these are
make sense.
changes that the government's made. So you're in a situation where you're medically retired. I guess that
Yes.
that the official term for it, medically retired, or
That's I've learned that term from a TikToker. Yes. Um, he's something else. He has Parker's Web syndrome and lost his arm and is going through the motions just last year. So, he's going through a lot, but he's helped me see, um, because he worked for the federal government, right? So
Mhm.
he's helped me see that they make things available but inaccessible. Like
Okay.
my pharmacare is running out. I can't afford to renew it.
Okay, we'll get to things one at a time here.
Mhm.
So you're medically retired. You haven't always been medically retired. But
No.
you have been disabled your life since you were 5 years old, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Now, can you
Hmm.
tell us about that?
I had a stroke when I was 5, lost use of the hand. My foot, I can't wiggle my toes. I have dystonia. You can see it on this side of the face. I know you can. Um, I've
What's
got,
dystonia? How do you describe that?
ooh, ooh. I describe it as, well, they call it dystonic. I call it demonic. It's like the body has a mind of its own. I'm Annabelle the doll. What can I
Right.
say? This thing doesn't sleep.
So
It
okay,
is
what is it?
constant.
Can you explain it to me? So I like and
Do you know what
I
a
have no
muscle
idea.
spasm is?
Yeah, muscle spasm. Okay.
A muscle spasm. I get them all up and down my right side, and they get worse. They're now contractures, so they bite down, and they're like tight muscles. So I get Botox injections all up and down the right side so that I can move freely, which I'm not
And the Botox
really
just kind of
able.
numbs the muscles up so that they, because I mean we
It
we all know
kills them.
Botox only from what we hear from Hollywood, right? People doing Botox
Yes.
as a way of
Well,
numbing their
Botox.
face to make it so they don't have wrinkles or whatever, right?
Yes, I get it. I get it too. The muscle groups, the pectoral, the bicep, the tricep, the extensors, my hand, um,
And
my tib fib,
is this
to
all
release
the
the
results of the stroke that you suffered when
of the
you
stroke. Yeah.
okay, and
Mm-hmm.
then that caused your body to just tense up in certain regions.
Seize up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not a flopsy stroke body.
I don't know
It's
the
alive.
types. Sorry.
It's alive.
It's alive.
It's alive. Yeah, it's alive, and it used to sleep, but it doesn't sleep anymore. And I wake up and I'm all twisted. So that's why I said it's demonic,
So it must
because
be
it twists.
painful too.
Yes. Oh my God. Yes. But I can't take anything but Tylenol. So
And why is
because
that?
I have Crohn's disease. Hmm?
And you have Crohn's on
Crohn's
top of that.
Crohn's disease on top of it. So any narcotics, bad, because if anything happens inside me, it's aggressive and severe with me. I've had 2 surgeries. I need to feel it. I need to
Okay.
feel it to know to go to the emergency room. So yeah, I can't take Advil because it causes GI bleed. So I was at work working for the hospitals, popping Advil, drinking coffee, having a blast. But I'd come home and I'd honk the horn for my spouse to come out and get me. Like he'd have to like get me out of the car, and I'd be laughing. I can't walk, but I had a good day. And at the end of the day, it ended up being what it ended up being. And they told me, you have to stop. You have to start taking care of yourself. You cannot ignore your hand anymore.
Right. Oh, I
And
think
that's what I was.
we're getting ahead of ourselves here. You're
Mhm.
5 years old. You suffer a stroke, and
Yes.
then immediately you have this condition. That's the
Not immediately. It took 6 months for my arm to start flying around on its own. Oh
okay.
my God. I started grade primary 6 months after I had my stroke. And my twin sister and I were put in separate classes because mom saw me as clingy to her, and she wanted me to be independent. So, yeah, I started school, and the arm, I remember reaching into my backpack for my Reese's pieces, and I didn't care where the arm was. I was looking for my Reese's pieces,
Okay.
and the arm shot up and back like that and hit poor Jerry Tanner. Jerry, I am so sorry. I am so sorry to this day. He fell over, started crying, and I was like, what did I do? I didn't know where the arm was, so I had to learn where it was at all times. And
Right.
it took about 5 years to do that and to learn how to talk
So you lost the ability
because I
to
lost my
speak
voice.
at that
Yeah,
point. And then
yeah.
how was growing up with this disability? So you were able to walk, just
I was
your arm
able
and
to
your
walk.
speech.
my mother is the reason why I'm able to walk, even though she doesn't like me saying that. Shh, nobody,
Okay.
nobody tell mom she's the reason, but she's the reason. She didn't give up. Um, like, oh my God, she didn't give up on physio. Like, I did more physio at home and horseback riding. And then I learned how to ride a bike, a BMX. And then I learned how to play tennis. And then I learned how to swim. And I turned into a competitive swimmer. Like, mom was always, you have to be always fight. Like, you have to get up and fight. Like, you're not going to be disabled your entire life. You have to do something.
Right.
So I went to school, and I did my best considering my health had kept flaring up and put me in the hospital and what have you. Um, I ran real estate. I ran a rental agency. I ran with the banks, but I kept falling flat on my face. Um, with the banks, it was the surgery. They didn't want me back. After I passed the mutual funds and all the training and everything, they looked at me and,
We got ahead again. So we
oh,
went, yeah,
sorry.
yeah, no. We're,
Say, stop
we're in
rambling, Annabelle.
yeah, we're in childhood, and then we went right to having a career in the
Oh, right.
banks.
Right. Childhood was a lot of fun for me.
Well, I think
It
that's a.
wasn't fun in
I
the,
think it's interesting because your mother was very pushy for you to be independent and do things on your own
yeah,
and not really hold this your disabilities as a crutch
no,
for lack of a better term
yeah,
as
no,
that and
she wouldn't have, she just wouldn't have it. She knew I was smart. She knew that, I don't know, she saw fire in me, I guess, and just kept poking the poking the fire, like, let's tell her she can't do something and then she will. Like, like that's what she would do.
Well, it's amazing because
Yeah.
we live in a time right now where you have able-bodied people that are told from an early age you can't do something. You're
Hmm.
not going to be able to succeed. Don't bother. Don't try. And it's
Hmm.
and that I'd argue that that's what just destroyed people's ambitions to want to do and succeed. And I think well, thanks to your mother, you're Riley.
Yes.
You're a go
I,
getter,
I
and
I still have I still have that childhood resilience because I had my twin sister to keep up with, and I was running. I was like, I can't. Like, I remember feeling like something had happened. I knew something had happened to me, but I was more focused on getting back to my baby brother and my dog and my twin sister and just getting back to playing and coloring,
do you remember the
like,
event? Do you
it's,
remember it happening?
oh, yes, I do. I remember everything from before and after. I remember having the use of my hand. I remember being normal. As normal as can be, I guess.
Relative
But
speaking, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, I remember, yes, I was outside. Dad was building a house and it was cold and we were all bundled up, but I had forgotten my mittens. And the front porch of the trailer that we were staying in while Dad built this house. The house was gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. Um, And I told him, my hands are cold. I'm going in to get my mittens because that's what we did. We were 5 years old. We had to tell Dad where we were going. So I went in and I yelled to Mom, where are my mittens? And I completely forgot where they were. And I remember thinking, wait a second, I know where my mittens are. Oh, is he back?
He's back, and
Little
I
dude?
forgot to lock the door. Everybody say hi to Daniel. Daniel's
Hi,
in the
Daniel.
podcast this time. He came in because he wants some of my lemon water. So I'm gonna give him
He's
some of
so
that.
cute.
Give him some of that, and then he'll be on his way.
Yep.
Okay, okay, Daniel. Great. Take your water and head off. Okay. Off you go. Off you go. And close the door, please. All right. That was surprisingly easy to deal with. That was okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Apologies.
I saw him kicking in his duck outfit earlier, and
Yeah.
he was really cute. Yeah. Yeah.
So you were
What was
you were
I
off getting
saying?
your mittens. You were inside getting your
Yeah,
mittens.
getting my mittens. And Mom said they're out on the porch, and I remember the look on her face. And I turned around, and then I turned around again, and I said, "Mom, where are my mittens?" She went, "I just told you, go get them." And I went, "Right." So I went out and I put my hand into my mitten, and then I went to put my other hand in, and this wouldn't grab the mitten to pull it on. And I thought, of course, I didn't know that I wasn't feeling it, but I thought, because my grandmother made these mittens, right? So they had strings in them. So I assumed that my hand was stuck in, like the fingers were stuck in string. So I took it off and it was hanging there like this. I went, I smacked it, like, wake up, dummy. Like, like,
Yeah.
why are you asleep? And it tingled. And I remember thinking, something's not right. And so I went back in the house and I remember yelling, "Mom." And she turned around and she looked at me and my face was drooping and I collapsed, and she picked me up and she knew something was wrong. So she yelled for my father, and he got in the car, and luckily my grandparents lived right across the street, so they came to get Courtney and Lee, and we went right to the IWK. And I remember freaking out because it was so cold out, and Mom didn't have her jacket done up, so I
Mhm.
was trying to do up her jacket and in her arms. So I then pass out again. I wake up, there's Dr. Dooley. God love him. He's since passed on just a couple of years ago. It's a very touchy subject with me because he was the best. Um, he was standing over me, and he had these great big. This guy was from Dublin and
Mhm.
did research at the Sick Kids in Toronto Hospital, and decided to come to Halifax to start working in 1983 and 1982, the year before I had my stroke, and I was his first stroke victim.
Wow.
So he's looking at me and I can't talk. And Dad's standing there with the book of matches going, "What are these, Annabelle? What are these, Annabelle?" And
And when you're thinking of a stroke victim, you're thinking of like someone in their elder
yeah,
years. You're not thinking of a little
yes.
child, a 5-year-old.
No, no, no. You're not thinking of that at all. So I stayed in the hospital for 2 or 3 weeks, and I got up and I walked. I remember that
Mhm.
because they wanted me to pee in a bedpan. I was 5 years old. I was a big girl, and I knew that I could get to the washroom. I was a brat too. I was a brat. I was a brat. I locked myself in that bathroom when I'd hear Dr. Dooley coming, because he he was rolling a spiky thing on my arm to see
Okay.
if I'd react.
Oh, I see. I see.
And I finally felt it, and I thought, "Oh, you're trying to hurt me." So I heard him coming, and I got up, climbed over the bars, and locked myself in the bathroom. And the nurses didn't have a key, so they had to call in someone to get me out. I then ran away. I went downstairs with $5 to the cafeteria, um, that my grandmother had given me, and all of a sudden I hear my name over the PA. "Annabel Purcell, come back to the floor." And they're calling my parents, and they're like panicking, "Where did she go?" And I'm sitting there going, I'm just going to keep eating my French fries that I pointed to. Like, I pointed to it and I gave her the money, and I didn't have to ask. So, yeah, so I was on the move, and they let me go, and they thought I was fully recovered, and then the arm just started letting loose. And Dr. Dooley looked at me and said, well, he said to my mother, "It's dystonia, and it's it it is what it is." And Mom was like, "No, no, no." So I went through a couple surgeries, and I was able to play and swim and everything else. So my childhood was fantastic.
Amazing. Amazing.
I was very, very privileged and very well taken care of. Very yeah. Yeah, Dr. Dooley was A1, Mom was A1. Dad was too. Can't forget about Dad. Dad took me fishing, and I kept catching these great big trout. um, one of them was a rainbow trout, and the arm was hanging on to the fishing rod. My dad's very particular about his fishing rods. He makes them now. He's an avid salmon fisherman. And he was like, "Don't drop the rod," and the hand wasn't letting it go anyways. But I almost got yanked out of this boat by this 2 pound rainbow trout that we called Walter. So
Interesting, because
yeah,
I hear when I hear you talk about it, I hear you constantly talking about the arm and not my arm, like as if it's a thing that you're dealing
it's
with on the daily.
it, um I disassociate with it. Like, this isn't me. This is my arm.
Hmm.
Don't look at it. Just, this is me. I'm me up here.
Hmm.
That's useless. It's useless. Just don't. I'm useful. Like, um um just because my arm doesn't work doesn't mean I don't try, you know.
Hmm.
And lately my job has been me, and that's why I'm sitting here looking as well as I am, because I take care of myself. I you know it yeah, I have to take care of myself.
And you have. It looks like you have for the course of your lifetime, and
Yeah.
you've had a career. You've worked in a bank. You've worked in the medical system. Tell us a bit about that.
The medical system, I was so relieved to be behind the desk. Like, oh Lord, I worked in a small hospital called Twin Oaks first, an emergency, and doing blood work and doing x-rays, and I was like, I am finally on the other side of the desk, and I can offer comfort to these people who are coming in for the first time. Like, oh, the things I saw. Oh, one man, oh dear, a truck nearly ran over his head. He was changing his brakes, or was it an oil change? I don't know. In his garage, he hollered. His wife came out, and I'm like, "You're okay. You're okay. You're okay. I am here. Don't worry." So that's where I started, and then I wound up in Dartmouth General, admitting surgeries, and people, scared to death, would come up to my desk, and their eyes were bugging, and some of them would cry. They're going to take my leg off, like hip surgeries, right? Knee surgeries, and what have you. So I'd calm them down, and I tell them, "You tell them down there that Annabelle says to take care of you. We are here for you. You're not here for them to be chopped up. You pay your taxes. They're here for you. They're here to take care of you." So
Mhm.
they go, "Oh." And I go, "Yes. So if you need drugs, you go down there and you tell them that you need drugs to relax you, to get you on the table." So they go down the hallway laughing, and I'd be like, "Yep." And sometimes the girls down in the OR would call me and say, "Annabelle, like, what are you doing telling people to ask for drugs?" And I said, I had to. I had to calm them down, that they weren't going. Like, and it is there for you to ask for. So,
Right.
why, like, if I'm going to be chopped open, I want drugs. Like, it's as simple as that. If you need it, it's there. It's a hospital. So,
Right.
yeah. So I had a lot of fun doing that, but I couldn't obtain full time. I was this close to it, um, full time status, and
And why is
I
that?
just
What
flaked out.
happened there?
I ended up, well, with the coffee and the Advil and the added stress on the body, I ended up throwing post-stroke headaches, and I'd be vomiting in the middle of the night. I'd be calling in sick. I went through all my sick time and 2 months of probation.
All your sick time and 2 months of probation. Like during the
No, not
probationary
all my
period.
sick time. Hold on now. 2 months of probation. I just got, oh, really, really sick. I was bleeding internally, like GI bleeds
I'm not
from
sure
the
what that
added
means.
stress.
What's a GI bleed?
Um, it's a Crohn's thing. It's
GA is gastrointestinal.
Oh, gastrointestinal. Thanks,
yeah,
sir. Thanks,
yeah.
sir.
So yes, thank you, Joe. um, yeah. So it the Advil thins the blood. It would take care of my headaches for the most part. The coffee drinking is bad for Crohn's. So I initially started a Crohn's flare by working. And then the post stroke headaches kept taking me out. And I was going, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with me? And then I got referred to neurology. She diagnosed me, told me that I had to stop.
Right.
So I
So,
said, so I had to stop.
and this is the point in which you became medically retired, as
Retired.
they
Yeah.
call it. So just
Yeah.
unable to work because your body can't handle it anymore.
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
so for my whole life, I've always been, told, because I've been an advocate against, having a nanny state, all these things, because of disincentives as we were saying earlier, like if you tell people they just can't do things, they won't have the incentive to go out and get at it. And I'm talking about able-bodied people, right? And the
Yes.
argument's always been, well, if we don't take care of people, there's always going to be people that are downtrodden in the worst scenarios, and people that can't help themselves. We should help them, and that's always
Yes.
been the argument. But here we are in a situation in Canada today where the system's
I
falling
want to help
apart.
myself.
Well, of course you do.
Yeah,
Of
the
course you.
system. Yeah,
You've demonstrated that, obviously.
like I drink tons of water. I've complied with my medications. I've done everything. Like the Remicade, they took it from me. They're taking my
So
pharmacare
what
from
is
me.
Thuremicade? What is that?
The Remicade was a kind chemo for my Crohn's disease because it's that severe and aggressive that my poor gastroenterologist had to chase me to start because I was slinging real estate at that point in time. And I was like, no, you're not going to tie me down for 3 hours. So it's a 3 hour drip. It's a kind chemo. And it's basically mouse proteins that adhere to the attacking cells that are Crohn's. Oh, TNF cells is what they're called.
Okay.
They start attacking the gut like there's something wrong. And there's nothing wrong, it's healthy tissue. So the Remicade, the mouse proteins adhere to these things and they allow you to heal, and then you're able to digest food and you're able to live your life. And they yanked it from me and put me on a generic thing because I'm disabled and I'm not working and I don't have private insurance.
So the Thuremicade, is that how you pronounce it?
Yep.
Thuremicade. It was provided to you.
Oh, Remicade.
Sorry, Remicade.
Just Remicade.
Yeah. So
I call it the Remicade because
Sorry. Okay.
yeah.
So the Remicade was provided to you through your extended benefits through your employment. Is that how that was?
No. It was provided by Pharmacare. When I started Remicade, I was still slinging real estate and what have you. So
one sec, the kids are running in here. I gotta stop that.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta make sure to lock the door next time. Sorry about that. I really apologize. I know they're cute.
No, they move so fast.
Yeah, they do.
You can't always catch them. So
yeah, we're here for you today, though, not the kids.
Yes.
So the Remicade was being provided by whom? Sorry.
By BioAdvance. Pharmacare provided it, but BioAdvance paid my deductible, paid my copay on my Pharmacare so that I could receive it. Okay. Because the amount, it's a $3,300 drug. I am very, very wealthy with what they've put into me over a 9-year period. I know that, and I was grateful for it because it's a life changer. It stopped so much. It stopped. Like I could eat salads, I could eat everything, and now I'm just I'm winging it. I'm flying solo without the meds.
Flying solo without the meds. Is there any reason why that
Without
those meds are so expensive in the first place? Um, I mean, this is an argument on pharmaceutical companies and how they gouge
yeah.
all the things. That's kind of where we're at there. I guess I'm is more of a rhetorical question than a real question. But so they have you on a generic one now, and that's the government's actually
Oh, I
providing that.
they pushed the generic on me. Well, Dr. Patel did because he was afraid of my disease. Like, I wound up at 78 pounds on the operating room table at age 26. Like, I almost died. It was awful. 2 months in the VG, and back then Remicade didn't exist. It was steroids, it was waiting, it was feeding tubes, it was TPN, which is a central line going to your heart. It was the throat closing over, Crohn's disease as well. It was all over the map for years. And then I did have the big surgery, and I was able to recover over a year and a half. I mean, I was so emaciated, I looked like one of those people.
One of those
You know,
emaciated people. What people?
I mean, Holocaust victims.
Oh, right.
Every rib was showing. I could see my aortic pulse.
Oh, wow.
It was just I was a flat out mess, and um, yeah, just a mess. So I recovered, and I started Reliable Home Rentals, and I was going about my business, and then the Crohn's came back, and Dr. Patel
Reliable
went,
home rentals.
"Oh,
Was that another job that you had?
that's my home rental company."
Oh, okay. So,
um, that I was running with real estate,
hmm.
and Dr. Patel caught on that the Crohn's was back. I was losing weight. I was a mess, and he said, "You can now go on Remicade. We'll get compassionate care involved. They'll pay for your pharmacare. We'll keep you going." And sure enough, it worked. I couldn't believe it. Instantaneous relief. And at that time in 2014, I was just getting over a bad car accident like I needed it. I flipped my car end over end off a culvert like Daisy Duke and wound up on my roof. And I'm going, oh shit, that hurt. Like, um, I saw the culvert. The marsh was on the other side of the road. I could have spun out into the marsh, but no. The car chose the culvert, and I saw it, coming towards me, and I went, oh my God, I'm either going to fly through that thing. I had my seatbelt on, thank God, or I'm going to get hurt. And I remember just bouncing and then coming to a spot and spinning and thinking, ouch, because something popped in my back. It was a disc and two compression fractures. So in neuro again, like I needed it, right? Like,
How'd you get out of
so
the
what am
car?
I
Are
saying?
you-
Oh, buddy came to get me. It turned out that the cleaner at the hospital where I was working had stepped out for a cigarette, stepped out on the front porch. It's a dark road. The 207 is a dark road, and it had just flash froze. One of those polar vortexes had come down, and it was raining so heavy that day that I was walking through puddles. I stopped for gas. I did everything, and then it dropped down to -7, and I was on black ice and just spun around and yeah, flipped. So where am I going with
yeah, who
this?
got you out of the car?
Mm.
So you're upside down in a car with a crushed
In the
hood or
car,
crushed roof,
uh, crushed, completely crushed.
but your seatbelt's on, so
Buddy
you
came,
you're okay.
yeah. So I managed to wriggle out of the seatbelt and went crunch onto my back, and I went, oh fuck. And the girl that was out for a smoke grabbed her husband, Chucky. I will never forget him. I was screaming. I was so mad. I was so mad. And he's saying, cover your eyes. I'm going to break your window and get you out. And I'm going, don't you dare, because the car was up for safety and I was out of my mind at this point. I thought that the car was still good. And he's going, cover your face. I'm coming in to get you.
No, I'm getting expected next week.
Yeah. So, so he gets me out and I'm just like, oh. And I look back at my car and I'm going, oh shit. Because it was destroyed. And he puts me into his car and my back is a mess, and he calls an ambulance, and of course the cars are now piling up behind me, and every nosy Chesapeaker, that's what we call our people here, Chesapeakers.
Chesapeakers. Okay, I'll
I
remember
don't
that.
mean to insult anyone, but nosy Chesapeakers. Oh boy, they were all lined up on the road, and they all know who I am, and yeah. So,
the slow driving gawkers, like the ones that at any car accident.
Rubberneckers.
Rubberneckers.
Yes.
That's it. Right?
Rubberneckers. Yes, I shouldn't say that about because Chesapeake loves me. I know they do. They when I had my stroke when I was a kid, like they were there.
Okay.
Yeah, they were, but there are nosy people in small communities, and a few of them were out that night to see what was happening on the 207.
Well, let's just say, we're glad you were okay, and you fared well.
Yeah.
In
so
that
I went back. This is where I'm going. The Remicade helped the back.
Oh, it helped the back as well. So it took care of the Crohn's and the back situation.
And the back. And I got up and I went, oh, I can walk. Like, it was just like a little shuffle, but it didn't hurt. It was a week after the car accident that I started Remicade. So I had to fight with neurosurge to get out of the hospital to get to the Remicade appointment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And I remember Dr. Sean. Oh, what was his name? Anyways, he looked at me and said, I think that you'll recover better at home. And I said, yeah, I will. Like, I was in a room with 3 men. They were very nice men, but it'd
be nice to be in your own room. Yeah, no, I get that.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah. And not being, stared at. There was like serious neurosurgeon, one guy had 3 strokes, and I got up and shuffled down to the ice machine to get him some ice, because nursing was suffering back then.
Yeah.
So, like it's been going downhill for damn near 40 years in Nova Scotia. It just awful. I'm lucky to be in the system with the doctors that I have right now, because the wait times are unbelievable.
Well, yeah, I mean, the wait times were, Joe, what was it? How many people are on the waiting list now in Canada? It's just a ridiculous number of people.
Mm-hmm.
I have an article here. Over 3 million Canadians currently waiting on the healthcare list.
3 million Canadians.
Yeah,
3 million. That's almost 1 in 10.
So for our so for our Americans out there, our demographics aren't as large as yours. We don't have 300 million Canadians. We have 38 million Canadians.
37, close to 38. It'd be like 10 million Americans all waiting for medical assistance.
It's insane. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've been suffering from it's been a pandemic of lack of health care for Canadians.
Yeah, that's just for family doctors, I believe. That's just for family doctors. People are going through the cracks and getting cancer and coming in to emergency complaining of pain and being diagnosed with pancreatitis. Meanwhile, it's cancer.
Right.
And it's eating away, and then they end up in real pain, and then emerge. They go through a CAT scan. They're loaded.
So
I know.
misdiagnosis and then not actually catching it in time, and then it's just too late by the time they actually figure it out. That's
Yeah,
awful.
and then yeah, my an old friend of mine down the road, dad popped up with his 2 twin girls in each arm to show him when we were 2 months old. So I grew up with this man,
Mm.
and he was awesome, and he should be here. He should be here, but he had diabetes, and he just slipped through the cracks, and he was at the end. I found out, and I went, oh, what, like what? Like I finally found out, and I went down to visit him, and he gave me deer meat, and he called me back, and he was matey, so um, he called me back to give me a hug goodbye, and yeah, I said, it's not goodbye, you'll be with me forever, and that was that.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it's happening to everybody, I know, but it's happening to the disabled tenfold. Like tenfold.
So yeah,
Tenfold.
that's what
With
brings us
like
into this whole situation with, well, they're cutting people off essentially. They're cutting people off
mhm.
big time, and this is supposed to be disabled people who are down and out, people who, they didn't have a choice in the matter. They were,
No, I didn't like I oh, I didn't mean to have the stroke at
of
age 1,
course not.
and
Oh
I
God.
certainly didn't mean to get severe and aggressive Crohn's disease, and I didn't mean to flip the car. Oh my
But what I'm
god, I
saying though
didn't
is
mean.
like your case is the case that's always used as the reason why we need to have socialism or socialized medicine, these kinds of things,
Yes.
a social safety net. And the social safety net, it seems like the fabric of it is just being destroyed. But rather than the people that have found themselves to become parasites on the system, able-bodied people, and we'll get into ableism because I know you wanted to talk about that. But able-bodied
Mhm.
people that just aren't doing things, or they're not being told, no, you can't go there. It seems like, I don't know, in my opinion, maybe I'm wrong on this, but there are people that are just really good at scamming the system, and they're really good at filing the paperwork and doing all
Yes.
these things. They made a career out of it. They're not spending their life in suffering, and they're not spending their life
No,
working for a living. So this
there
is,
are people who abuse the system, and that's why they have the back to work program and everything else
mhm.
for the disabled. They don't believe that I suffer because they have so many people. Oh, I hate to say this, but oh, I have a sore back. Oh, I'm going to
Mhm.
go off on disability.
Yeah, people
And
taking
then they get
advantage
their
of it.
pension, they get their, everything. But I guess they claw back on pensions and insurance. So they take, oh, this is something else that I've learned. If I had a pension besides the disability, CPP disability, they'd claw back on that.
They would claw back on your pension on top of the
Yep,
the CPP.
yep, because the CPP is taxable income.
That's interesting. It was a tax in the
It's a
first place.
loophole, and it's a shitty one to put on a person. It's shitty because, like, I never obtained full-time employment, and the people that do and fall ill, they're being clawed back. Money's being taken from them.
Right. So yeah, any
It's
money that
not.
you would have had in that's
Mm-hmm.
terrible. That's actually terrible.
So it's best that I didn't work full time and kill myself. Like I could have done that, and I was trying to do that. And now looking back, I'm going, what the hell? What the hell? I was supported all through my life because I was smart, because I could do things. And now I'm old. older, not old, but older, and they see me as almost a political burden, a political inconvenience. Like, oh, okay, she can't contribute anymore. She can't do anything. So we're, we came up with, they came up with MAID. And people who are impoverished, disabled Canadians who are impoverished, who don't have the family support that I have, and I hate being dependent on like my brother. My brother has been helping me, and my sister too. Like my entire family has been helping me, and I'm horrified. It's so, I'm only 45 years old, you know? I shouldn't have to ask my brother for grocery money,
Right. Right.
you know?
And we're seeing this
And I've
all
been
over Canada.
independent.
We're seeing this all over
Yeah,
Canada.
yeah, I've been independent thus far, and it's like a kick in the teeth. Like I would make, it's only a small amount, but 20 to 2500 a month after taxes. After taxes. And they throw me this.
Right.
It's not okay.
So right
So
now,
yeah.
we have huge amounts of people, more use of food banks than Canada's seen in forever. I think this is the
And
most.
I don't use the food banks. I don't use them
You don't use
because
them,
I think of people with children,
right?
right? Like,
I'll tell you a story about the food bank. It's really sad, actually. So my wife and I, so she's from Japan originally, and we decided we were going to move to Japan for an amount of time, right? We'd been married for a few years. We met in lovely Whistler, British Columbia, and we're still in our honeymoon stages. We're like, let's go. We'll go live in Japan. I'll learn your language and your culture and all that stuff. So we went and we lived there, and we were there in 2011 when that big earthquake and tsunami happened. And it didn't affect us. We were in Tokyo, and I think there was one person. There was only one person that lost their life in the whole Tokyo prefecture, and it was because they were leaning over a guardrail on a building at the time that it went. It was just super unlucky timing for this person. Fell off a building, but nobody else was. No buildings fell over or anything like that. Not in Tokyo. It was all in Miyagi, where all the tsunami and everything hit. But right afterwards, like, my family had a big freak out. You got to get back because of the whole Fukushima thing, which ended up not being what people thought it was, and everything's fine where we were living anyway. Anyway, long story short, we came back in a rush to Canada. We were going to come back a few months later, but we didn't have any savings. We were going to save up a bunch of money and then come back to Canada. And we ended up in Whistler, and super shy on cash. We spent all of our money on first and last month's rent, and we had no money, nothing to eat. So we ended up having to go.
God.
Yeah, we had to go to the food bank. And so we went, and when we were there, we were waiting in line, and all these people were talking about how they were having parties and how much fun it was at the parties and all this stuff. And my wife were like, what? Like, everybody's talking about partying the night before, and they're at the food bank that day. And then and then a Range Rover pulled up. And a Range Rover, if you don't know, is a very expensive car.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, it pulled up, and people got out and skipped the queue and went in and got their food bank food, and then jumped back out and then took off. And my wife was livid. She was like, if you got to take food from the food bank, you better sell your car first, downsize and have a more modest automobile. Anyway, so we were pretty turned off by the situation there. And when we got ourselves back on our feet, we ended up donating back to that food bank. But we were like, we're not engaging in that particular one
Yes.
again. We
Yes,
still
that's
give to
why
other
I can't.
charities, but we were like, no, not with that one because people they
No.
allow the
Yeah.
abuse, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of abuse. Um, and I don't mean to call people out, but when I see people on TikTok using certain diagnoses and trying to get clout for it, I see red and I just hit block because I can't see that. I can't see people with one issue and it's a small one try and complain about pain.
Well, let's
Like
talk
it's
about that
so
because so we see that a
it's
lot. We see that a lot with there's a lot of clout chasing when it comes to people inventing things that they're marginalized about.
yes.
So we have people that say they're marginalized because there's some new gender that didn't exist before, just
Yeah.
yesterday or something like that. Are there people that are
Hmm.
doing that in about disabilities? Are there people that are chasing clout
Oh,
for disabilities that don't exist?
oh, yes. I'm not one. I'm just an open book. I'm an open book. I put it out there, because I see a problem and I'm going to try to fix it. My friend from out west there says it'll be like a kickoff to a football game. It's just the beginning to something, but
Mhm.
the fact that I'm trying to do something about this problem and there are people who are just sucking the system dry.
Well, there's a lot of
Like,
goodwill out there, though. You gotta understand, like, there's a lot of people that want to give to people who,
yeah,
they hear a sob story and they're like, I want to give you my money. Take my money. I want you to
yeah,
do well.
no.
But that's a redeeming factor. Like we gotta like recognize that as a thing. The redeeming factor
Oh,
about humanity is that there are so many good hearts out there that are willing to just give to strangers that they feel for. And I try to see a silver lining in everything, right? So there are,
yeah, you are.
yeah,
I don't know why people, uh, some people will look at me and say, well, you could work. I'm going, Christ, you don't see it. Like they don't see
right.
the disability because I take such good care of myself. They don't see it.
But obviously you've tried
They
to
don't see
work
the
and
work.
you've put yourself in
Yeah,
those positions and
and they don't see the work that I'm putting into myself morning, noon, and night, and the amount of nap time that I have to have if I'm having a bad day. Like, oh, it's bad. I'm down. I get up, I flop. I go back to bed, I flop. I fight with my arm. I try to do my best with my Crohn's. It's always something. It's always something, and it's absolutely maddening that there isn't any supports.
well, I can so like
It's
I can devil's advocate, right? I could see how people would look at you and they would see, well, the only disability that I see is
how
your
could
internet connection at the moment because it keeps freezing
oh,
up a little bit. No, that's fine. That's fine.
oh dear, sorry.
No, no, it's all good. But no, you look well. You look in good shape.
Yeah,
You look
yeah.
fantastic. And until you show like this is what I'm suffering, these are the things that I'm going through, people
Hmm.
wouldn't notice that, and that's not something
And
that.
then they look at me like I have 10 heads, Clyde. They're going, what? You've been through what?
Well,
Like,
yeah, this is why I wanted to have you on to explain your story. Like
yeah,
there are people
yeah.
out there that are
There
really
are
truly suffering, and it may not appear that way.
no, yeah, no, everything. Well, if you were to see me, you'll see me walking um outside of Parliament soon. Um Although I will have Botox done on the 13th, so
How long does
I'll
that
be able to
last?
move.
How long does that last? How long
It
does the Botox
lasts
last?
8 to 10 weeks, and
Okay.
it just lets the arm go. It makes the foot land properly, but you never know. The cold may grab me, and you'll see me limp. You will see me limp. You will see the arm. You'll see it all. But as far as the neck up, it's all good in the hood. Like and people think some people think I work on TikTok. Like my funny ones that I don't know if you've been on lately, but the funny ridiculous ones that I put on, they think I work on those. I don't work on those. I got the facial expressions. I slow it down. The background feed sound that people use that aren't their real voices. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. So it's a
Yeah,
TikTok thing for people. So people are
yeah,
watching on YouTube. There's cultures
yeah,
on the
and it
different
looks
websites. So like on TikTok, there's like a pre-recorded thing. You do a little lip sync to it. There's short
yes,
videos. It's a whole culture that goes on TikTok.
yeah.
But
So
I'll definitely leave a link to your TikTok in the description down
yeah,
below so people can go see exactly what we're talking about.
I'm quite good at enunciating and making people laugh. So I just do it and it's like 5 seconds. I actually have video because my sister says, my twin sister and my brother were giving me grief about being on TikTok, blah, 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 and how much work is that? And I went, okay. And I was in bed. I tied my hair up. I put the filter on. I did a TikTok. And you can see how terrible I look on film. But because of the filter and the voice, and I sent it to them and I said, here I am making a TikTok for you fools. And I sent it to them and they're like, oh, you don't work on them at all. Why? I'm having fun with TikTok. I'm not working on that unless it's about
Some people
February.
do though. Some people work on their TikToks. It'll take them hours and hours. Same with the Instagram. Like you'll
Oh, no,
have
no, no.
people that have one
I
photograph
never
for the
work at
whole day, and
anything.
that's.
No, I can't do that. I get a headache, right?
No, I
So,
get it. I get it.
people are seeing this and they're going, there's nothing wrong with her. She could, and I'm going, yeah, and only a couple comments on my TikToks where people are going, and then I tell them and they're like, oh, and they follow. So, yeah,
So,
yeah, like only a couple,
so this is what
bad.
drew my attention to you. Somebody pointed out and they said, "Hey, Clyde, you've been talking about MAID and how much of a slippery slope this legislation is, and this new bill what
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to pass forward on MAID, and you got to check out this lovely lady Annabelle on TikTok. She's talking
Mm-hmm.
about it, but she's doing her thing, and then also showing, talking about the dark side of this. And what I've been
Yeah.
talking about on my channel is essentially them opening up the door to anybody and everybody being able to essentially access MAID for essentially whatever reason. Um,
The mentally ill shouldn't have
Well, that's the
access.
controversial part of it, right? So the
Yeah.
mentally ill, which includes depression, which I mean, we're supposed to be looking out for people with depression, not giving them a way
Mm-hmm.
out uh,
Yeah.
because of that. And then obviously there's also the government's got some really awful, perverse, terrible incentives to cut back the costs of the medical system when it comes to people who, well, because of the nature of a social safety net, there are going to be people that cost more than add benefit to the system. And this is just something that we've always accepted as the reason for a social safety net, right? We all pay in
Yeah.
collectively as a group of people taxes to pay for this, but then we don't let anyone fall through the cracks. And yeah, there'll be some people that abuse it, and we'll try to catch those people. But
Mm-hmm.
what we're hearing now is that people are being offered MAID in situations like people at the food banks. Famously, just recently, Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the Conservative Party, the opposition in Canada, official opposition, has talked about people going to the food banks requesting MAID services because they just can't pay their
Yes.
bills.
I heard that and I went, the average Canadian. There's a TikTok on this because it really pissed me off that he didn't mention the disabled Canadians.
Mm-hmm.
Like, where are we? We're non-existent. Like, what about disabled Canadians? I heard that speech and it was good. It was good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm too concerned about the average Canadians. Like my nieces and nephews. What will they have in the future? Like they won't have anything.
Well,
They
what's
won't have
what's
anything.
really disturbing about the idea of this is because of COVID-19 and the vaccinations and vaccine hesitancy, they've opened up what they call mature minors. Is this a new concept that children as young as the age of 12 will be able to make medical decisions on their own without parental discretion or parental consent?
I know of this hockey player. He was 16. He went back to school. He played for the high school hockey team. They wouldn't let him play. They said he didn't need parental consent. His mother was dead set against it. He did it anyway.
He did what?
The COVID vaccine
Oh, he
to
went
play
ahead and
hockey.
did that.
He went ahead and did it anyway.
Yeah, without
And
the parental
technically
consent.
speaking, they need medical consent.
Right. So, but this is where
That's
this
not.
gets dangerous, right? So they push that for
Yeah.
the COVID-19 vaccines,
Mm-hmm.
not thinking down the road, what could this lead to? Well, they're also pushing for MAID for whatever reason. Essentially, all you need is 2 practitioners, and meanwhile, they're changing around the colleges and in British Columbia, all the different colleges of physicians and nurses and all these things are being amalgamated and controlled by the government now. And,
Yes, I heard about that.
And they're opening it up so it doesn't have to actually even be a doctor. It could just be some practitioner of some kind that they can give the recommendation. And then you just need two practitioners' recommendations. And this is dangerous. This is dangerous territory where you could have
It is.
kids that, I mean, I was a 12-year-old, and I liked a girl and she rejected me and I wanted to end it all.
Oh God.
I mean, but
And you wanted to die. Yes, we all go through that.
yeah,
Like,
it's hyperbole. It's
that.
hyperbolic, right? But it's
Yeah.
but kids are still figuring out what emotions are, and they don't know what's going on, and they're jumping into these situations.
Hey, Clyde.
Yeah.
Can I just throw this in here for a second?
Yeah, sure.
This is on the Government of Canada website. The people who can provide MAID are a list of people that gather a team of not just doctors, but people who are physicians, nurse practitioners, where this is allowed, which is good. But they also include people like pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, and assistants, family members. Family members can sign off on MAID, something that normally you would think would be just doctors.
Is this new?
This is on the Government of Canada website.
So this is what's legal
right
now. Yeah, this is not proposed. This is what's happening.
Oh my God, my brother joking about it shouldn't be joking about it.
No.
Yeah, this is why I'm saying this is so
My
terrifying.
brother loves me. I mean, like, he loves me, but he doesn't know what he's saying when he says what he says.
Yeah. Crazy Joe. Joe, can you pull this one up? There was a story. You got to look for it, but it was a story about a guy who went to the hospital. His last name was Nichols, Jim Nichols or something like that. He went to the hospital, and he had a history of suicidal tendencies or thoughts or something like that. But he went to the hospital for another thing, and on his way in, there's the article. Joe's got it. This is why I have Joe here, because Joe gets the stuff immediately. Disturbing. Experts troubled by Canada's euthanasia laws. Can you read the excerpt for what happened to him?
Sure. Let's go. Toronto. Alan Nichols had a history of depression and other medical issues, but none were life-threatening. When the 61-year-old Canadian was hospitalized in June 2019 over fears he might be suicidal, he asked his brother to bust him out as soon as possible. Within a month, Nichols submitted a request to be euthanized and he was killed, despite concerns raised by his family and a nurse practitioner. His application for euthanasia listed only one health condition as the reason for his request to die: hearing loss. Nichols' family reported the case to the police and health authorities, arguing that he lacked the capacity to understand the process and was not suffering unbearably. Among the requirements for euthanasia, they say he was not taking needed medication, wasn't using the cochlear implant that helped him hear, and the hospital staffers improperly helped him request euthanasia. Alan was basically put to death, his brother Gary Nichols said. And here's the paperwork.
When
That's
did this happen?
this past year.
This was published last August.
Yeah.
Oh wow. I read the comments as much as I could on the last interview that we did.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this one lady who had a friend who didn't have any family. She had a bad car accident and she signed up for MAID because she couldn't support herself.
That's unreal.
Yeah, like it's disgusting. It's disgraceful.
Well, it is that
It's just
that would okay. You're requesting this. No, nobody's there to turn you over to a different option.
nobody's there to
Nobody's there to
no.
say, "Are you sure about that? How about these other options? How about these other things?"
No.
We're hearing reports
No.
of veterans from Veterans Affairs being offered euthanasia to cope with their PTSD.
Yeah, that
There was a man who had
oh
no joke. No joke. There was a man who had a brain trauma and PTSD, and Veterans Affairs apparently, evidently, this is his testimony to this, said that that the Veterans Affairs nonchalantly just offered him MAID. Like, why don't you just off yourself?
yeah, that's like Christine, the Paralympian, and the war vet, who wanted a what do you call it? A wheelchair ramp for 5 years, and when she made a fuss, they put it in writing. They put it in writing, and they said, if it's that dire, we have MAID as a service for you.
That's she was, yeah, I heard about that. She was complaining about it being just late. She wasn't saying.
Yeah.
She wasn't saying.
Yeah.
I need it.
Dragging herself up to her house, up through the door, dragging herself and her wheelchair for 5 years. And you want to believe I'd get pissed off?
Yeah.
I'd be like, "Where's my ramp?" Like you know, like. But because we're disabled, we're just like, just sit down and shut up. Just sit down and shut up.
So yeah,
You know?
let's get into that. This is the ableism that you were talking about. This is this is a thing that you say is because I don't know, I always want to push back when people say the isms. Like, as soon as there's an ism, I'm like, oh, okay, where are we going with this?
This is a new ism for me. Like, I just got wind of this in the last year, and I went, oh, that's what it was all that time. All that time. My entire life. Like, you know, even, okay, ableism is the discrimination of disabled people, to make it short.
Yeah, we've got this, your sign that you're going to be bringing with you when you're
Annabel against ableism, because they only promote you and give you the best if you're a contributing member of society. And growing up through school, I was smart, so they saw potential in me. They paid for my St. Mary's University, even though the last year, the last semester actually, I wound up in the hospital and didn't withdraw. And again, this is another example of ableism. The dean, because I didn't withdraw from those courses, I have a twin sister who was in school. She could have brought the forms into the hospital for me. I was out of my mind. I was out of my mind. But because I didn't ask my sister to bring me my forms, he looked at me in his office and he said, "We expect more from our graduates. So you're taking the 5 Fs." I never made it to a class. I was kicked out of school.
Kicked out of school because you couldn't make it to the classroom.
Yeah, couldn't make it to the classroom and didn't fill out a withdrawal form to take the courses later on.
And they didn't have a
Because I was
correspondence
in the
option.
hospital.
I mean, they have options for all kinds of people. So like correspondence or what have you.
No. I remember my human rights professor. Funny thing, human rights professor coming in to see me, and he was saying, "Annabelle, you have to withdraw from my course, or you're going to get an F." I remember that, but I didn't understand completely. I didn't. I was being pumped full of Demerol and steroids and everything, and I was sick. Like I couldn't eat.
Were you able to do the
So
course at the time? So I'm like, I always play
no, I
devil's
was.
advocate on everything, but like,
Yeah, no, I wasn't. I wasn't to one class.
right. So I'm confused. So you were enrolled in a class and then you got sick. So you were given an option to what?
There were 4 courses that I was enrolled in,
Mhm.
and they were electives. And I got sick, went into the hospital for a couple of months, came back out, and the withdrawal date had passed. So
Oh,
I had received 5 Fs, and you're out of town a letter from the dean, and I went to appeal it, and I had my doctor's note and everything, and he was just like, "Nope,
they just
nope,
wouldn't
we
accept that.
expect more."
Now,
Nope.
is that ableism in that scenario,
I
or
think so,
is that just being a
because
stickler for the rules and they were happy to take the cash and then go on and tell you to take the
I
course
think,
again?
yeah, no, I think it was ableism because St. Mary's expects a certain criteria, and where I didn't fit that criteria, he wasn't willing to play ball with me.
Interesting. Because
Yeah.
when I hear ableism, I hear about like I think about access to washrooms, things like that, wheelchair access, things.
No. It's so much deeper than that. Like when I was at work, everyone looked at me and people would look at me, Clyde, and say, "You got this job because of your arm."
People would say that.
Jealous
People would say that out loud.
colleagues. Yes, from the bank, from right on down to the hospital. The last day that I worked there, I walked out. I walked out because this colleague of mine who was new to the job, and I had just gotten back to work from being really, really sick over a 6-month period. I had yet to be diagnosed with post-stroke headaches. COVID was just on the cusp of coming out, and I wasn't feeling well. I was having a headache, and emergency had closed, and I contacted my boss. I said, "Can I go home? Like I'm not doing well." I'd sit there and I'd sweat, and I just like it was awful. And she said, "Sure, ask your colleague." I'm not saying her name. She's lucky because she was
Well, we're not
new.
in the business of outing people for anything. I mean, just
No.
uh,
And
leave
she
that
looked
one.
at me and she said, "Why are you asking me? You get away with everything, 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 everything. You get away with everything." And I went, "What are you talking about? You just walk back in here and you take over and blah, blah." Well, I had seniority, 7 years seniority over her. I was a casual. She was a casual. I went back to work. I got first dibs on the shifts. It was fair.
Mm-hmm.
It was fair. And she took issue with this, and she had no problem bringing it to my attention because she was that backwards that she didn't realize what she was saying and how awful it sounded. So I said, "Yep." I said, "It's called 7 years seniority, dear. You may as well get used to it." And I am done. And I walked out. And she was yelling, "Yep, run away. Run away. You do that well."
Oh wow.
Because people were talking about me at work while I was off sick, saying things like, oh my God, saying things like, "She just wants the winter off." I was bleeding.
Right. This is a weird.
Like,
That's that thing where people don't get it. Right. They see
no,
they see how well you look. They see how well you look. And they don't
yeah,
realize
yeah.
what's actually
I
going on,
remember
what the
showing up
situation is.
at Twin Oaks after, oh God, I worked all day, 12-hour shift, you know. I went home 4 hours later. I'm in emergency and I'm vomiting. I'm having one of my headaches. My arm is sticking out behind me. I am like, just they had to give me Maxaran, Toradol, Gravol, and Benadryl just to calm the headache. And they're looking at me and they're saying, "Annabelle, you just left work. You look fine." And I'm going, "This is the problem. I will look good right up until the day I die, and probably after death." Like, like it doesn't matter how good I look. I was trained to dress well. Like, it shouldn't
Yeah, you
matter.
shouldn't have to look all dumpty for people to believe you that you're going
Yes.
through stuff. But
Yeah.
this is the situation when other people are milking it, right? So when so many
Yeah.
people are milking a scenario, the old, like you were
Oh
saying, "Oh, my
God.
my back hurts. Sorry, can't do the whole
Yeah.
day,"
No.
kind of thing.
My back hurts.
Yeah.
You just said that like a maritimer.
Oh, did
You
I?
did. Oh, it hurts.
Oh, my back hurts. Oh,
Yeah.
time to call it.
Yeah.
My back's acting
Time
up
to call
again.
it.
But yeah,
Yeah.
there are people that milk it, and that's a reality. That's definitely a
Yeah.
reality of this situation. But
Yeah.
like, it's
And I
difficult.
just turn my head to them and turn the cheek and go, "Oh, you'll be all right." Like you can't get mad at them because most of these people don't know what it is to be sick.
Yeah. No, I get that.
So when something happens to them when they're 40 or 50 years old, it's, oh, that's painful. Like, it makes me laugh because I experience pain in my body all day, every day, such that I don't know what pain is.
Right.
I know what severe near death pain is, but what my leg is doing right now is painful, and my arm too. Like, I'm sitting on my hand here, like, like it's all just messy. It's
Right.
just, yeah, like the toes are pointing inwards. I have a brace on my foot right now, and I'm sitting back on my couch. I hope you don't mind.
Well, so
The
I'm picturing what you go through is like I've had those toe you have a toe cramp where your toe feels like it's sticking straight up, and it doesn't want to go away, and it hurts like a lot. But I'm assuming,
fingers and toes,
but that
fingers and
but that's what
toes.
I'm saying. Like, it's like that
Yeah,
that's something that's temporary and it goes away, but it's such an inconvenience at the time. But I'm
yeah.
I'm
My toes
imagining you
curl
going
up
through that all the time.
when I'm walking. My toes curl up in my boot when I'm walking. So that's why they do the tib fib and everything to release the toes. Like, it hurts. Like, last week I was helping a friend move and I was in the back seat because she gets motion sickness and what have you. And my toes kept curling and they were hitting the top of my bogs. I've got these really cool boots, bogs. But they would not straighten out. They just would not straighten out.
And it just
So I
keeps
had,
pulling on you.
yeah, I had to ask Julia to move the car, to move the seat forward so that I could take my boot off and be at peace because it was all, well, here's the toes right where can I show you? There's the toes in the brace. And my brace has skeletons because because of all the things that have tried to kill me but haven't. So I
Yes.
picked the skeleton.
It's amazing. You're in such good spirits, even though like all of the things that you've gone through in your entire life. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Well, I'm kind of used to it now, you know. So yeah, yeah. Can I take a quick bathroom break? I have to pee.
Yeah, sure.
I usually have a much better bladder. I'm sorry about
Yeah,
that.
no problem. No problem. We'll
Yeah,
just we'll
that's
just
funny.
keep going from here. No
Mm-hmm.
issue.
What was I saying? I forget now. God, I'm still alive.
You're still alive. Well, yeah, the skulls on your boots because of or on your.
Oh yeah, yeah, the skulls. I said, "Yep, give me the skulls." You know, like I finally got the brace. Like Mom wanted me in a brace when I was a child,
Mhm.
and well, I couldn't play in it, right? So I fought her on it, and she wanted my hand splinted. And of course, nothing would work because the hand would fight it. So I'd get all these blisters.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So Mom tried everything, everything, everything. Even Botox. I was the first kid in Nova Scotia, and I screamed all bloody blue murder after appointment number 2 because Dr. King went berserk. He must have pummeled me 30 times in the arm,
Ooh.
and the arm was just like a dead weight, whereas I can hold, like I can stick things in my armpit, and like this I'll put in there like that, like like I can make it work. But oh my god, I couldn't I no, I couldn't pick up kids at daycare anymore. Um I couldn't pick up babies that I babysat like I was a babysitter.
Right.
So I screamed at my mother, never again, like never again. So my poor mother, like, now that I'm getting Botox again
Right.
and it's going well, she's like, well, I had, I had that for you. And it's true. That's how I knew where to go find it when when I needed it. I knew exactly where to find it, and I had a referral written, and I was over there lickety split being Botoxed.
So
Yeah.
how did you get on this kick of wanting to do this protest? When did that occur? When did that become like
It
something that you set
happened
it as a mission
when
for yourself?
MAID became available to people like me. That's when it happened. I found out about it. My friend Julia had to tell me 3 times. I'm like, whatever. What are you talking? Like I remember being like, what? No,
Yeah.
no,
And why did
what?
they give it
No.
such a nice name, right? Instead
Yeah,
of calling it
MAID.
what
And
it
I'm
is,
going,
yeah.
so then it sunk in and I went, a cleanup a cleanup crew is what I said. And Julia was like,
You
exactly,
broke.
do.
That
She
was your
called
first
me
take.
do.
Okay, wow, a cleanup crew to come clean
A
up the
cleanup
mess.
crew. It's awfully symbolic that they called it MAID instead of like MAD, like medical assistants with, like, why?
Otherwise, if it,
Why
yeah,
call it
because you
MAID?
don't usually use the
I don't
I
need a MAID.
in the acronyms or in.
Yeah, in dying,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's just like, the thing about disabled people is we can get messy. My mother has chased me my entire life for being a messy little pig because, like, with the kitchen cupboards, I'd go into the kitchen in the morning, pour my cereal, whip open the cupboards, whip open the drawers, grab my cereal, grab my fork, grab whatever, my spoon, and walk out of the kitchen. All the cupboards were open.
Right.
Right? And Mom would come downstairs and go, Annabelle, the exorcist. And I went, what? Because I didn't know about the exorcist, but she'd just say, Annabelle, you're the exorcist. Like, don't do this to my house. So, So I did eventually. Well, no, I still leave things open. Like messy people. So like when I heard that MAID was available to the disabled, I thought a cleanup crew to clean up the mess. I don't need this in my life right now. And it is kind of like giving me a gun.
Hmm.
I've thought, don't think I haven't thought about suicide over the last 40 years. I've thought about it. And now there's this peaceful way to go. Like, no, no, no. I am looking for dignity in life first,
Mm-hmm.
and then dignity in death. Give me dignity in life. Do not erase what I have accomplished in my life like it's all useless. Like I feel like working was useless. Everything is just useless. I tried my best and it wasn't enough. So Lee had me out water skiing. My brother, he's amazing with disabled people, and I'm looking at these people and I'm going, what's going to happen to this one? What's going to happen to this one? Because every single one of them that were water skiing came from good parents, came from good backgrounds. What happens to the ones who don't? And what will happen when their parents die? The kids, like,
Mm-hmm.
then they'll have the option of MAID to follow their parents. It's not. It's not right. It's not Canadian.
No,
It's
no, it's
definitely
not.
not Canadian. No,
No, because we've
no.
always
You'd
we've
expect
always
the
wanted to look
States.
out for each other. That's all the point. The whole
Yeah.
point.
No.
There was an article
No.
from Forbes recently, and they were saying that it's eerily reminiscent of the Nazi. What did they say? Nazi era echoes.
Purge. The purge of 1936. They dragged the disabled out of their homes and executed them in front of their families for being a burden on society.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just, and I don't mean to say it wasn't just, but it wasn't just the Jewish people who were being killed. There were gypsies, there were Polish people, there were Ukrainians, there were like
The undesirables,
anyone who didn't
as they
look
held
like
it.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyone who didn't look like them. And oh, what was I gonna say? It was a good one.
Well, we've got this
Oh
article
shit.
up here. Canada's new euthanasia laws carry upsetting Nazi era echoes, warns expert, and goes
Mm-hmm.
into how it's reminiscent of essentially how it was.
Eugenics.
Yeah, the eugenics, unworthy to live, as they called it. What does that say in the fine print there, Joe?
Learn about the Nazis' medical killing program that was responsible for the murder of mentally and physically disabled people during World War II. It's a whole article on it at facinghistory.org. We'll link this in the description below for further reading. I'll
Yeah,
send this to you
yeah, you have to send me that
in Discord.
for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's gross. It's gross
But
the way they're going, and they're even talking about making MAID service available for children, um,
oh,
infants.
oh,
There
get this.
was a what was it, a physician, the College of Physicians from Montreal, something like that, and they were discussing making it available for infants up to a year old.
Yeah, with their parents saying, "Okay, we give up." That's not proper.
No.
You don't give up on a child. And the fact that like we have a new baby. He's I think he's 4 months now. He'll be 4 months soon. He's so cute. He's just across the road.
Babies
He's
change
my
your
spouse.
world, right? They just
Oh, I
change
love
everything.
babies.
I never,
My sister and my brother
I swore I would never
and
have
my
kids.
brother.
That was my thing when I was younger. I'm never having kids. I
Oh,
mean, I think most boys do this. They go through that phase. And then my wife
Yeah,
wanted children, and I was not gonna not gonna say no, you
I
can't have children,
no,
right? No, I was not gonna be I
no,
was never not gonna be
no,
that man.
no.
But
No.
we had our first kid, my beautiful daughter, and everything changed. Like everything changed.
Yes.
It
Yeah.
was amazing.
Yeah. Um, yeah. The fact that you can give up on your child. Okay, this is it. The new baby. The new
Sorry, I
baby.
put you
Okay, the babies. The mothers are watched all through pregnancy. I know that you're aware you have children, right? They're watched. They do the amnio. They do
Oh
everything
yeah,
to
yeah.
make sure that the baby is well born, right?
Mhm.
If the baby has a heart defect, Down syndrome, you are given the option to abort.
Yeah, that's
That's eugenics.
that's what they yeah, that's what's been
That's
pushed. But
eugenics.
we're what we're
And
talking about is about parents after the child has already been born. So it's not like first trimester or anything like that.
no,
It's not like early stages or anything. And that
no.
a lot of that gets really gray, and the ethics around it are
Hmm.
difficult and hard for a lot of people. But once a child is born, and
Yeah.
now it's an autonomous human being, and all of the
Hmm.
arguments of my body my choice is all over. It's all done. That's another living human being. And yes, it's not, it can't consent to things on its
No.
own, but that child is born. That's the thing. And it's, we're actually in this country having this discussion on whether or
I
not.
know. It's so weird. I thought that we were something else. I I lived such a sheltered life here in Nova Scotia. My mother sheltered me. She did. She told me that the world was cruel, and I thought, okay, outside of Canada, like, like, like no. And now, well, I always knew because of the way people were with me, and I come to find out that the way people were with me is ableism. She can't do this. She can't do that. She can't act normal. She can't,
Or
you
do people
know?
just treat you differently? Like, do they treat you like less of a person, like right out of the
Yes.
gates? So I have a colleague, and he speaks Spanish. That's his mother tongue, and
Oh,
he's pretty good with English.
Spaniard.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He's from South America, but like his English is pretty good, but it's not great. And it's
Mm-hmm.
funny because when I talk to him, he's like, "Thank you so much. You treat me good. Like you treat me well when I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
I understand my English sucks, you know." And I said to him, I
Mm-hmm.
said, "Well, I speak Japanese about as good as your English, right? So I
Yeah.
get it." And he's like, "Yeah, people talk to me like I'm stupid. I'm I work at a
That's it.
I work. I'm a
That's
professional
it.
back home. I'm I'm not a dumb guy."
Yes.
He's like, "But yeah, people talk to
Don't
me like I'm
talk to me
stupid."
like I'm an invalid. Like that's what people do. Oh, are you okay? Can I help you with get off is what I like, like don't come at me with a wheelchair yet. Like I was away last year
But
with
you're
a
not.
friend of
But
mine.
that's the thing. Like you're not mentally disabled. You're physically disabled, and that's a
No,
different
no.
thing.
And people hear the TBI and they go, like, just go, is she mentally challenged? Like I swear to God.
Well, you
I swear to
ramble, but
God. Yeah, I
that's what.
ramble. That might be a result of the stroke and the not being able to talk for a while that I
And
just
being
have to
from the
get it all
Maritimes.
out. But yes, I ramble. I drive people crazy. But
But that's a
they love me.
personality thing. That's not a disability thing.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's just my sister, well, she first day of school, she got caught talking. And I met my best friend as a result because I was looking for my sister and I was scared to death. And she comes up and she goes, Courtney's in the corner. And I went, What do you mean Courtney's in the corner? On the first day of school, she got caught talking.
Oh, wait, she
So
got punished for it and taken away from you.
yeah, we are both talkers, and yeah, yeah, we're twins, but we're different.
Okay.
And it's like, well, I don't know. It's because I'm disabled. She's I don't know. I can look at her and read her mind. Like, and she can
Is
look at
that a
me and read
twins
my mind.
thing? Like I hear about that from a
Yes.
lot of twins. I hear a lot of twins
Yes.
that say
We did
they've got
twin
some connection that other people just don't have.
we did twin talk for up until I had my stroke. I remember Mom looking at us and saying, "Stop it. Don't you do that." Like, Mom was like, because we'd be talking about our mother. We'd be oh, like it, and it was just jibber jabber to Mom. And it worked for her, though, once when Courtney jammed a bunch of candies in her mouth down at a friend's house at Christmas time. And Mom had to pop them out like boop, boop, boop. And Courtney had a fit because she wanted those candies. So she was put in a room and she was screaming and crying. And I was out in my diaper. You know, we were both in our diapers because it was so hot in that house. They had a wood fire. And I waddled down, and I remember this. I was only 2 years old. I remember this. She was in Alfie's bed, and I waddled down, and I remember saying, "You better be quiet and get some rest. There's no need for this. Stop it." And Mom heard dee 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 dee, and Courtney shut up, and I walked out.
Oh, that's funny. That's really funny.
Yep,
So it must
yep,
that's a real thing. Twins just know how to
yep.
communicate
Twin
with each other.
talk. And the looks, like she, like I keep texting her about what I'm doing in Ottawa. She's going like this. She's going,
Is she like
"You keep,
overprotective? Because I imagine like
yeah."
if I had a sibling that had a stroke at 5, then I would just like my whole life I'd be just overly protective of that person. That's my
My brother
assumption, but
and
I
sister,
haven't been through that, right?
my brother and sister, my sister is my brother didn't realize that I was even disabled. He was 9 months old when I had my stroke, so he grew up with the gimpy fin, as I call
It
it,
can be fan.
and he never saw it. He never saw it until he met this girl named Valerie at a boat show. And Lee's very, very, very savvy. He's got the machinery, he's got the brains. And they had the sit ski there, and
Mhm.
Lee looked at it and said, "What's that?" Like, like in his maritimer way, "What's that?" And he gets talking to this Jan woman, and she's telling him about skiability and everything else and how much this thing cost. And Lee said, "I can do that for you for a lot less." And he did. And then 2 months into it, he realizes my sister is kind of disabled. That's what he said to Jan. And Jan looked at me when I finally met her, and she said, "He doesn't know you're disabled." Like, and we laughed. Like, he didn't really realize until he saw me in that sit ski. And I remember thinking, like, oh my God. He just sees me as a strong minded person. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do this. Like, not just Ottawa, but everything in my life. She's going to do it. Just let her go. Like,
Right.
that's my brother. Um, Courtney is, yes, she is more protective, but she doesn't really see it either. My family, because they're so used to it, and they all they hear is me rambling like you are right now. Like, they just, and I don't let them see it also. I don't let them see me, like, I don't let anybody see me but my spouse, who is Superman. I gotta say, he takes care of me. He takes such good care of me. And he's got issues himself, so we hold each other up. and the country won't.
Right. Right. And that's why you're going to Ottawa. Let's get into why. Let's get into your whole concept of what you're doing in Ottawa.
Well,
So you're heading there
I
when?
need
When's the day that you're planning to go?
I leave on the ocean train. I'm doing this maritime style.
Oh, tell me about
Um,
that. The ocean train. What's this ocean
the
train?
ocean train. I found a train called the Ocean, and it's a 20-hour flight across the from Nova Scotia to Ottawa. Well, Nova Scotia to Montreal, then we catch a connecting train and then just fly up to Ottawa. And I'm going to wander around Parliament, find the most accessible, well, the
Well,
best
before you
spot
get
so
to that,
that
because
those.
you always jump the interesting parts. So you were
Oh,
telling me earlier about this train. So this is a train that's normally like
oh,
a
the Ocean.
significant amount of money to get on, and then you got yourself a discount. How'd you get that?
I don't know. I don't know. I was talking to the guy and he said, I can't believe this price that I came up with. And I'm going, what price? $168. And I went, what? And he says, and your spouse can ride for free because he's your support person.
Oh, and this is
So
because of
I'm
your
riding.
disability.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm riding up in this great big reclining chair, gourmet meal, and then you get to recline and sleep. Put the neck donut on and sleep. Wake up the next morning, have breakfast on the train, then get off in Montreal, and then just get on and keep on going.
Hey,
Like
that's nice.
it's simple.
I'm gonna be flying to
It's
I'm gonna
simple.
be flying to Tokyo in a couple of weeks, and I won't get anything like that. I've never had anything like
No,
that.
no, yeah,
Coach all the
no.
way. They call it economy now. I think they don't call it coach. It's got some negative
Well, this
connotation
is
to
this
it.
is just it. He called it the economy escape package, and I'm going, that doesn't sound right. So
Escaping the
he just,
economy.
yeah, escaping the economy. I said, yeah, I'm escaping something. I don't know what, but I'm going. So
Okay,
he
so
said, and the train's called the Ocean. And I said, oh my God, because I started thinking if I can be a ripple, just a small ripple that might turn into a wave. Like, by the time I get up there in the summertime, I was thinking that if I can turn into a small ripple. And then, of course, this train is called the Ocean. And I went, it's meant to be. I have to go.
wow.
So I'm going. Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
will you be in Ottawa?
February 27th, I'll be walking around Parliament to pick my spot because I want to be seen, like I have to be seen, or I'll freeze to death. I'm going to have my brother-in-law's survival gear. And I'm going to have a boom box and I'm going to have signs. So I most likely will be seen. And if they don't come to get me, that says it all. It says it all.
So
They're
if
going to let a
nobody comes
disabled
to meet
person.
you, you mean to come
Yeah,
outside?
yeah,
The
yeah.
politicians of late, they haven't been so forthcoming and joining and
And that's why I'm
talking with
doing this
people.
on my own, because if I have a crowd of angry disabled people, they're not going to come out. They're afraid of their own shadows, except for the Ukraine. I'm very proud of our prime minister for flying into the Ukraine. You didn't see Joe Biden doing that, or anybody else.
Yeah, well, I'm not very much for wars and going the
No,
celebration
me
of getting
either.
into
But
them.
the fact that he went over and like Christ, I feel terrible about complaining about Canada right now because I could be in the Ukraine. And this is just it. This whole Ukraine thing has scared me such that I better do something, because disabled people got left behind in the Ukraine.
Did they? Is that a fact? I didn't know that.
And the elderly, yeah.
Oh, I wasn't aware of
They
that.
they were they were raped, and yeah.
I hadn't
They,
heard that. No, this is the
if they,
first I've heard of
yeah,
any of that.
if they couldn't get out, that this is what I've heard. Um, just because I am disabled, if they couldn't get out, they were left behind and picked up afterwards.
That's horrendous.
So
That's
I
horrible.
plan on flying a Ukrainian flag with the Canadian flag to signify, but because, I don't mean to complain. I'm sitting here on my beautiful
I don't
couch.
think that's the litmus test, though, because I've heard these arguments too before, where people have said, "Oh, well, you know,
I just
you
feel
you've
like
got it
I'm,
pretty good here in Canada. Why would you fight for this cause because other places have it so much worse?" I mean, but you could throw that argument down any path, right? Like, why are women wanting rights when you could be living in Saudi Arabia where women don't have rights? I don't think
that's,
it's not a
that's
good
true.
argument. We don't. The
No,
litmus test isn't the worst place in the world, right? The litmus test is our place
but
and
if,
what we uphold as our values, and we should always hold those values higher than any other place. And I think it's a just
well,
bad argumentation.
this is just it. If anything were to happen in Canada and I couldn't get out,
Yeah, well, that's true, and we don't want our country to be like that. So like that's what I'm
no,
saying.
but they are like that.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate. That's
They're being
unfortunate.
like that to me right now, and it's just like, oh, you're giving up on me.
Yeah, and
Like,
we
don't give
shouldn't.
up on me.
Yeah, I agree with you.
No,
And
I'm worth. I think I've gained some confidence over the last few years. I think I'm worth more in my pinky finger and life experience than most people will ever have. Like, God, not that I should be revered and like, I shouldn't be like, but I should be taken care of better. So this bill that's on the table that's going to become the Canadian benefit, disability benefit, will help pull the impoverished disabled Canadians away from the MAID because they will have money to feed themselves. Like, there are people who are going homeless and turning to MAID because they can't go homeless.
yeah, because they don't want to be on the streets. They wouldn't survive.
Yeah, with no medication, with nothing, with like, it would be 10 times more, oh my God, more like 1,000 times more uncomfortable for me to be homeless than it would any able bodied person. I cannot go homeless. I can't. Like, I can't, and I can't be dependent on my family. I can't suck them dry. Like, it's not right. It's just not right.
And like I said, this is a social contract that, well, a social contract. That has been in discussion lately because of Neil deGrasse Tyson and his words. But the whole idea here of the we're taking care of the downtrodden. We're taking care of the people, the social safety net, as you would.
No,
It's falling apart. This isn't where we're supposed to be now. When you go to
I
Ottawa,
don't
you're
think
you're
we were
saying that you're
ever
gonna.
there.
Sorry.
I don't think we were ever there. I don't think we ever had a social safety net because I know of people who've been on disability for like 30 years, 30 years, and they're below poverty, 30, 40 years, and severely disabled.
Mm-hmm.
And in one bedroom apartments, trying to make it to the end of the month. Like, I've always wondered, like, why? And I never knew. I never knew
Right.
that it was because they weren't contributing and what have you. Um, it's not. They have they've had them below poverty my entire existence.
Hmm.
except for the ones who have private insurance with their work. But I come to find out that they claw back on private insurance and pensions. So if
Right. So they're clawing back on all of those things as well.
yeah,
So that's
and causing people to, and with the inflation rate and everything else, like I don't know what to, it's ridiculous. It's all absurd, and they should put the bill before MAID. Like why has that been sitting on the table for
and
6 years?
and what so this bill, what's in it that's gonna
Money.
well, so it's funding. Yeah, so it's a
Yeah,
bill that
funding.
includes funding for people
Yeah,
that are chronically disabled,
disabled.
can't help themselves, or can
Yes.
help themselves but can't fill all the needs that they need in their
Yes.
lives.
Like
And it's
like
been
I
tabled how
can
long?
live
6 years?
6 years.
6 years it's been
Yeah.
sitting there,
It's
and
been
that
read twice in Parliament. I remember hearing about it from Yugmeet Singh at work. I remember hearing something about $1,500, and I thought, okay, well, that's fine. And I was in the processes of applying for disability, and I thought, okay, well, that's good. That's all that I need to get by. And then it just fell off the face of the planet when COVID hit, and then something happened with the NDP, with the Liberals. I don't know, and it's been sitting there. It's been read twice in Parliament, and it's just sitting there, and people are starving.
that's unreal. So it's just, yeah, it's just not politically expedient for them to go after. Meanwhile,
No,
they're
they
ramming.
want more people. They want more disabled people to go the way of the MAID for $50. It costs more to put a dog down. $50 is what $50 to $100 is what MAID costs,
That's just
or
disgusting.
MSI. Yeah,
And
yeah.
this by the way is at a time where they're spending record amounts of money, not only giving it away to foreign countries that are having wars like the Ukraine, but they're also putting it into. We just got news the other day from what's her name, Michelle Rempel Garner. She broke a story on her Substack saying that there was a quarantine hotel in Calgary where the government was setting up a quarantine hotel, and there was supposed to be there for anybody who had to stay due to quarantine measures. Apparently, during like a fiscal year, there was only like 10 people that did it, and it was somewhere in the ballpark of like 20 something million dollars that was spent on.
I have it here.
Oh, you have it there? Okay, what are the numbers?
Yeah.
Because it was
Documents
ridiculous.
show federal government spent more than $6 million on a Calgary quarantine hotel. Under the
Okay, 6
caption here,
million.
it says 15 people.
What is this about? Say
So
it again, Claude.
okay, so it's a quarantine hotel. So because of
Yeah.
COVID,
A
there was
quarantine hotel
yeah
for
they're holding
COVID patients?
yeah just for people who flew in and they didn't know if they had COVID or not, but they may have been in contact with somebody who had it at the time and had to stay in the hotel for 14 days. So 15 people over the course of the time, and the hotel was given $6 million by the Canadian government for the stays of
Yeah.
15 people. Yeah.
$450,000 per person.
Yeah. And the amount of money
Yeah, but
that
they
could.
were charging people $2,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
Meanwhile, I found this other article here.
Oh, okay.
There's a Canadian guy, 65. He wrote down his primary reason for wanting to seek MAID as just being poor.
I don't want to
Yeah.
die, but I don't want to be homeless. Canadian man, 65, has a doctor's approval for euthanasia despite admitting becoming poor is the main reason he's applying to die.
that's not good. That's not good. That's not.
It's messed up.
This is the Canada.
That is
This is the
fucked up.
Canada we're living in right now.
Yeah.
This is where we're at. and
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people speaking out about it. There's not a lot. And one thing that
Well,
really go
did
ahead.
you hear what Justin Trudeau said?
He says a lot of
About
dumb
YouTube,
things, but sorry.
about YouTube and people talking about Canada being broken on the dark places of the internet.
Well, we're
I'm
on one
going,
of those dark places right now, I
oh,
guess.
you said that? Oh, you really saying that? Oh, TikTok's a dark place, is it? No.
You want to
No.
know some dark stuff on the internet. So recently there was a advert from Simon. Is it Simons or Simmons? Canada is a clothing
I think
brand.
it's,
Yeah, Simmons
yeah.
is a clothing brand, and they ran this advert. It was like those unsolicited adverts where you're like, why are you talking about that thing? Like you sell clothing. They did this cinematic video about euthanasia and about MAID in Canada. And Joe's got the video there. You can play the
What?
video without the audio. And
I think this is just a picture.
just a
Screenshot
picture
of it. It's
of
not
the
playing.
audio.
But yeah, this specifically is the scene in that advertisement with the creepy blue whale.
So the creepy blue whale, and here's where it
I've
gets.
heard about the creepy blue whale. What's the deal with that?
So here's where it gets really creepy. So they ran this advert, and it had all this symbolism in it, and that's creepy enough as it is. And they were trying to glamorize and show that MAID or euthanasia is like this glamorous thing. People are choosing their own thing and having parties about it and all this stuff. And it turns out that there's actually a group of people on the internet and the dark corners of the internet, and they call themselves blue whales. And these blue whales are sadistic individuals that get off on encouraging people to commit suicide and then tell the tales of this to each other, and they share each other's stories as like trading points amongst each other.
Oh.
And they use blue
That's
whale
really gross.
symbology as their thing because they call themselves blue whales. I think it has something to do with like a whale that would grab someone and pull them under.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really.
I believe it was pulled from YouTube. The archive just kind of shows the U page as it looked. You can't really click on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And when I access it, there can't be reached. So yeah, that's they realized after the public backlash.
And who? Oh, Simmons did
Simmons.
my.
Simmons put this on. An artistic group were the ones that aided in this, but then they had all this really bizarre symbology behind it, and then it turned out that the symbology actually has a meaning to some really dark things in our culture that many people don't know about. And there's some really sick people out there that are at the helm of encouraging people to do this.
Oh. That's hard for me to wrap my brains around. It's well, that's a lot.
Sick people like that exist. I mean, there was a doctor, I believe, I can't remember where it was from. It was a number of years back, but
Kevorkian?
No, not him. Not him. Everybody knows about him.
Yes, Kevorkian.
Dr. Death.
Kevorkian running through our hospitals right now. Go ahead.
No, there was a doctor who had a lot of patients die under his care. And years later, after years and years of this happening, and there was a few instances where people kind of caught on this kind of weird, and they looked into it, and it turns out this guy was just a serial killer, and he was in a medical professional situation. And
I've heard something about this. Yes. Is it The Good Nurse? No, it might be The Good Nurse. This nurse would kill people. He'd put poison into their IV bags.
Yeah, he would poison them, and he would watch them die, and he got off on that.
Yes. I did see that.
Yeah.
It's on Netflix. It's a documentary. The
Oh,
Good
really?
Nurse.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
The
read
Good
it. I
Nurse.
read about it years ago. I knew about the story and the kind of the
Yeah.
circumstance, not the actual thing. Do you have that up, Joe? Is that what you've got there?
This is a different one. It's two doctors who have been openly bragging about how many people that they've euthanized.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
that's like Prince Harry bragging about his death count in Afghanistan.
Yeah.
Don't get me started on him.
Oh well, yeah. There's plenty of YouTube channels that talk about the royals.
I can't stand it. I love the Queen. I love the Queen because she was steadfast. She served for 70 years even though she never wanted to. She held on to that role, and the family broke down in her last years. Like, like it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I think it's
It's
funny because like the British, they don't care so much about it anymore. It's the Americans that really follow it. Some Canadians follow it. Apparently, that's like the big thing is in America, following the royals
yeah,
and
the
all that stuff.
Americans are, well, they think that they're I shouldn't say this. They're presidents. They're presidents, are royalty.
It was never
Think
supposed to
about
be
John
that
F.
way.
Kennedy. John F. Kennedy, Jackie Onassis went to dinner with the Queen and outshined her. She she was dressed better. The Queen had a fit in her own quarters, but like she was blown away. Jackie Onassis showed up the Queen
Yeah.
at
Well,
Buckingham Palace. Yep.
it's a far
Yep.
stretch from where it began. That's for sure. The American
Yes, it
experience.
is.
Yeah, definitely.
And Donald Trump, oh boy, he's not royalty. He doesn't even resemble. He should have stayed in real estate.
Okay.
I'll just say that.
Fair
He
enough.
was good at that. He was good at real
He
estate,
was good at
but
real estate. He was fantastic at real estate.
I actually respected him in real estate.
Ah,
Like,
yeah.
and now
Some
I'm just like, oh, Trumpkin. Like, oh. I'm not here to talk about the Americans,
No,
though.
no, we're here to talk about
Because,
Canada and the issues here in
yeah,
Canada.
yeah. I do have family in the States, and I love them all dearly. My dad's cousins my dad's aunts went down to clean houses and met their husbands, and now he's got cousins down there
Ah, okay.
who, yeah, yeah.
But
So
I
we're
want to
all
know. I want
family.
to know about your stay in Ottawa. So your plan is on the
I don't know
27th.
where I'm staying.
So you don't know where you're staying, but you're staying. That's what you're saying. So your whole
Yeah.
plan here is that you're staying. I sent Joe the URL to your Give Send Go. You can pull that up. So just so people out there
Yeah.
know, if you want to support this and support the movement for this, we've got the Give Send Go up here, and you put the original YouTube video that you
Yes, I
came
did,
on with me.
because it got like 17,000 views, and I thought, well, put that on there. Like, it may as well. Like, I've never had so many. Wait a second now. I've had 130,000 views on one TikTok, but not like an interview about me. No,
Yeah.
nobody cares.
No, people
Like,
do
nobody
care,
cares.
and that's the reality of it is people do care, and well, I would encourage people to give to the efforts so you can not freeze
Yeah,
while you're
I
there.
do need a place to stay. I was looking at Airbnbs. Um, I need a place to stay. I don't know, something like a lawn chair so that I can sit down if I need to. Um, I really want a box, but that's not going to happen. Did I tell you that I was going to jump in the box?
Uh, no, what?
For
What? You're gonna
shelter?
jump in a box?
I was, my brother-in-law came up with this idea. Oh, we'll build a casket for you. so that you, so you can lay in the casket and have signs all around you that say, "Here's the girl that never fit into any box." And I said, "Well, Jason, it doesn't have to be a casket; it needs to be a box, so that I can fly into the box and yell at them." And yell
Oh,
at them, "Yeah, I'm the girl. I'm the girl. You're gonna have to deal with me now." Like, like that's what I'm gonna do. And I'm also creating a playlist because I got this little boom box here, and the Tragically Hip Nautical Disaster, People of the Pride by Coldplay, um, oh, a bunch of songs by Coldplay. Where's my book? I have it written down.
anyway,
Stevie Nicks.
a big
Yeah.
playlist of songs that you're gonna play while you're there.
Yep. Shout. Tears for Fears. Do you know how old are you, Clyde? I don't know. I
I'm
forget.
older than people believe. It's I'm 40 years old, so
Oh, okay. Well, Tears for
I
Fears
do.
and Simple Minds, Alive and Kicking.
Hmm.
Like I'm thinking about like performing, like lie down and like while the song Alive and Kicking is playing, kick my legs up in the air like, "Hello, I'm alive and kicking. I don't need this right now. I want to live." And what other one? Don't You Forget About Me. It has the lyrics. Um what else? Shout by I think Tears for Fears. I got Tragically Hip. I've got a bunch by Coldplay, like Yellow, because
So
20 years
what are your
ago.
demands though when you go there? You obviously you'll have demands that if they're met, that's when you're like, okay, I'll pack up.
Yeah,
What's the demand that you're stating that?
just pass Bill C-22 and let my people live. Let my people go, basically. Let my people go and let them know that they can live.
Mm-hmm.
You know, um, because people giving up on themselves when they're disabled is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Disabled people are just as important as able-bodied, if not more important. You know, not that I'm saying that I'm more important than anyone, but as far as daily care goes and fighting things, it's a daily struggle and people don't know that. They don't know it.
Mm.
They don't know it. So I'm going up and I'm going to say, pass the bill. My battle began 40 years ago today, or I will freeze to death out here in the cold for the world to see. That's what I'm going to say. And then you'll have some explaining to do. What are you doing letting a 100-pound disabled woman freeze?
When they could be just actually doing their jobs and looking at
Scooping
that
me
bill.
up.
Because
Yep,
the
scooping
bill's
me
on
up.
the table. Like they could bring it up.
The bill's on the table. I'm going to challenge Pierre Poilievre. Why isn't he challenging Justin Trudeau, who's all virtue signaling? He's got no policies behind him. He's just virtue signaling, and Pierre Poilievre is not challenging him on this bill, and he should be.
Mm-hmm. And
Like,
meanwhile, they're ramming other things through. You got Bill C-21. That's
oh,
We've got Bill C-11. That's the internet censorship bill. We've got Bill C-18 is
no, that's
another
not
media
important.
censorship bill. Yeah, they're well. It's important to them. It's important to them, and that's the difference. Is
Oh, they want to stop TikTok.
because they want to set you up. They want to set you up.
Honest to God, I think they know I'm coming. I think there's no way. Well, I did have a TikToker who I believe is real. He said that he contacted Pierre Poilievre and CC Trudeau.
You keep saying
He's a friend.
Polyev, so it's Polyev. I had to be told because I
Polyev.
get names wrong all the time. People were in my comments like crazy. It's
Oh,
pronounced
sorry.
Polyev. Say it like that.
My Polyev. There you go,
Polyev. I was saying
Polyev.
like Polevria. I can't remember what I was saying.
Polyev. What was I saying?
Polyvare.
Polyvare. Oh, I was saying it like LaPierre. Oh my God.
It's all
That's so
good. It's all
funny.
good.
Thank
Just
you for
I know
correcting
people
me.
people get me because I mispronounce everybody's name. So
Pierre, Paul, I, I can't say it.
yeah,
But
Poly.
I'm going to go challenge him to challenge Justin Trudeau
Yeah,
to get things done.
and
Like,
challenge
let's just wrap.
Jagmeet Singh as well. He's the one who's
Yes.
he's been saying about greediness and all this other stuff, and we should be giving back to our citizens, but he hasn't been doing anything to actually
No,
help.
virtue signaling. It's all virtue signaling. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. They're not doing anything. It's all blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. And then send money out to the world.
Yeah, nothing's
Like,
being done.
it's not. And the thing is that their question periods are all rehearsed. It's written for them.
So I have a particular gripe about the question period because it's yeah, like you said, it's
It's all
rehearsed,
performance.
but it's supposed to be them asking questions and answering them, but it turns into this passive aggressive way of talking to the speaker about the other side, and then grandstanding and being able to make videos for your YouTube channel or for your Twitter, and then everybody can share it, and you'll have the gotcha moment, and
It's so gross.
it's gross.
It's so
It's
gross.
gross. It's hard to
It is. It's
watch.
like watching 12-year-olds run Canada, and we wonder why. I shouldn't say this, but the Russians are lashing out because they see the states falling apart. They see us falling apart, and they feel like they can. Because we're all just like losing our shit over nothing, and it appears bad to them. It appears really, really bad to them. Like we're divided. And technically speaking, no, we're not. We're still Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The states are the states. I can't say much about them, but we are still Canada.
It's amazing when you
And
get outside of Canada, though. Like, would you realize because we have a perception of how other places are, but then when we step,
we are a depressed nation.
we are, and it's weird when you go somewhere else and then you realize, oh, that's not how I thought it was. Like, oh, it's actually
No.
relatively
Yeah,
nice
no,
over here, and all these other places.
I've been a few places, and the last trip I was on, I came home and I was mad. I was mad because well, the way I was treated outside of this country, I have never felt acceptance and inclusion like I did when I went overseas. They didn't look at my arm. They don't ask the qualifying question, what do you do for a living? And I asked them why. I asked them, why don't you ask me what, like after meeting a few people, why don't you ask me what I do for a living? Oh, no, that's too personal. No, we don't talk about that.
I ask a lot of people that. I never thought of that as like an offensive question.
That's a qualifying question. It's the first question to come out of people's mouths so that they can size you up to see if you're worthy to hang out with them.
Oh,
it is. It is what it is.
So I've always done that. I've always done that as just a way of seeing where people's interests are.
It's a very personal question when you really think about it, and when you're asking a disabled person what they do for a living, you shouldn't ask that.
Oh, okay. I never considered that because I think being a mechanic is just what I do for a living is a huge part of my life. So it says a lot about me and who I am. Like if people hear, oh, you're a mechanic. Oh, okay. So I get a grasp of like,
that's fine, but not to ask to see if, like, at the yacht club, we got these snots at the yacht club, and they will ask, what do you do for a living? And this was a couple of years ago. And what did I say? I take care of me. I said something like that. I said, I'm me. I'm Annabelle. What more? Like, what? What does it matter what I do for a living?
You say
It should
I'm an
matter.
internet personality.
That's new to me. I can't tell you.
It's new to me. I
I'm
still call
not like
myself a
one.
mechanic. that's
Yes.
that's what I am first and foremost.
Hmm.
That's where I
And yet,
feel
I
that I am.
see your point in mentioning mechanics so that you have something to talk about, right? Like,
Yeah, I got a baseline
I
of like,
see,
oh, okay, I know where your
yeah,
interests are,
baseline.
kind of thing. Joe's an engineer,
But
for example, so like me and him should hate each other. It's like that's the role that we're
a
supposed to
mechanic
have.
a
Yeah,
mechanic and an engineer. Yeah, you should.
yeah, that's
Yeah, we're a
correct.
bit at each other's throats. I'm going to interject and say, I get where she's coming from. Geez, Clyde. For people who aren't successful like yourself,
Hmm.
um, it
Thank
can be
you.
embarrassing, especially when it's not their fault.
Oh, okay.
It
I
can
never
be
And
thought of it
to
that
embarrassing.
be
way.
constantly
Yeah,
reminded of it, I can see that grinding people's gears,
yeah.
and just having it thrown in your face where you're constantly worried about the societal approval, and then having every time that question gets raised, just reminding yourself and everybody else that no,
That,
despite however hard you have tried at trying to be successful, you still ended up in the
A
place you are.
mechanic.
And just a mechanic, right?
well, that's the way I felt when I was working at the hospitals because I always wanted to be a nurse.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I can
fair.
empathize with what you're
Yeah.
saying.
I can now
Thank you,
too,
Joe.
and I didn't ever consider that. I just always thought
Yeah.
that people did the things that they worked hard at. But on that vein, you could say,
Hmm.
I guess now what I'll ask people is, what do you do for fun? Because that's the other question I'll ask people.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
What
what
do
do you
you
do
do
for
for fun?
fun? Because
Oh, yes. And then I can't tell you what I do for fun. I'm having
looking
fun.
over your shoulders.
I'm having, I'm having fun taunting the government of Canada. Oh my
Wow,
gosh.
that's one of the
Thank
things I do for
you.
fun as well. I think we got something in common here.
Yeah, we're taunting the government. Take care of me or don't. That's it. Take care of, like, it's so sad that they make things available but inaccessible to the disabled. I'm losing my pharmacare.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a good thing I'm not on any, like, all that I really needed it for was my Remicade, but I'm only on an antispasmodic for the arm and the leg, and that might cost $17 without pharmacare, and an anti-heartburn pill because I get reflux, so
So the
that's all that I
difficult thing
take.
about this whole thing is the argument for socialized medicine. And the reason why we have socialized medicine and universal health care is that it was seen as an outrage that people would have to pay for these services. But here we are, you're talking about money. These are the things that you're talking about. And this
Yeah,
is what we're
all
supposed to
money.
be alleviating by having this. Now, there's an argument to be made about bringing in private medical. There's the awful word privatization, and
We don't need that.
so
I have.
one thing before you, I just want to jump in. One thing is we're the only of I think it's the G7 countries that have socialized medicine that don't have a private option, and we're doing the worst out of all of them. We're actually doing the worst, and part of the reason is because we're uh, people who could afford to just go to another hospital aren't freeing up the system for another person by paying extra taxes. They're still paying the tax for the medical system that exists, but they're not able to go to another system or another country or whatever and free up a spot for somebody else. And I mean, there's a lot of other issues. And I spoke with Dr. Brian Day about some of the ins and outs of why medical is so expensive in Canada, why we spend so much money on it and actually don't get much out of it. Where
No,
we should be looking at these other countries that are doing it and doing it much more successfully than us, that aren't dead last. We are dead last when it comes to all the countries, and we're talking postmodern nations that have universal health care. We're failing the worst out of all of them.
Yes. Yeah, we are. We definitely are. Like the Remicade Clinic is a private clinic that I got sent to for 9 years.
Mhm.
And now they're pulling they're pulling the plug.
So for example, in the German model, and this is what Dr. Brian Day was telling me, was in the German model, if a Canadian hospital can't serve you and serve you within a reasonable amount of time, the Canadian the government would have to pay for you to go to the private clinic. So you would have access to the private clinic.
Oh, well, that's what I was doing.
Yeah. So
that's what I was doing. And they then just stopped because the government told them to.
That's right. So like, and this is why our system's failing, and this is why a private option is a good one, because it incentivizes the government hospitals to do a better job, because they would lose out on money because it's going to the private enterprise when they could be getting it themselves. That kind of scenario. And then it also adds that extra layer of protection for people that are falling through the cracks, as well as I think the German model, from what I understand, from what I was told before, was that if a person can't find it available in the government option, and they can't find it available within the country in the private option, the government will pay for them to go to a neighboring state to have it done.
Oh, I watched Michael Moore's what's it called? The Invasion, the Great American Invasion, where he steals Eastern European ideas like Germany, Sweden. Oh, what was the other one? Tanzania. Oh my heavens, these people have it set up. They have it set up like if you get sick or feeling down, you go to the doctor, you get prescribed a 3-week paid for spacation to rejuvenate yourself. They pay for it.
I can't imagine that here.
Me either, and we need that.
I'm just thinking of all the people that are like, I just don't feel so good right now.
Yeah. Oh, Canadians would be like all over it.
Right.
They would, but
drain those coffers real fast, right?
Yeah, but because they've always been this way, their kids go to school and eat camembert cheese and all these beautiful vegetables. Michael Moore showed them what kids in America were eating, and their faces were like, I couldn't eat that. What is that? What is that? So, and they all drink water. Nothing but water. Michael Moore sits down with his Coke. He says, anybody want a Coke? They're going, no. Like, oh, what's that? The devil's drink. Like
the devil's drink.
We drink water. We keep our water. So he offers. Well, he's an American, right? But the American flag draped over him, and he's overweight, and like he's sporting America, like for real. For
I wouldn't say that guy sports America, but that's another topic.
I don't know what to think, but he ended up giving a sip of Coke to this little girl who was maybe 13 years old, and her face went like this. she started shaking, and she had a fork in her hand, and it started tapping her bowl, just out of control from the sugars.
Oh,
From the sugars. They're not used to Coke and Pepsi.
yeah. My kids don't drink any
All
of that
they
stuff.
drink is water.
My kids don't drink any of that stuff.
No, not mine. Well, mine. I shouldn't say mine. Courtney's, my twins.
Yeah. So Japan, our other home, there you can get Coke. I mean, it's available, but just nobody drinks it.
Yeah,
Like
but why
it's
would you
pretty.
drink it?
Yeah. I mean, most people just drink tea, like green tea. Just and there's no
Yeah,
sugar in it or anything like that.
yeah.
I
I don't know why Coke and Pepsi ran rampant in the 80s, but it did. I it's such it's just poison. It's gross.
well,
I used to drink
it's a
it like it was going out of the bottle.
marketable drink, and sugar's
Yeah,
addictive, and we know that, and it's
yeah.
easy to get
I
people
used to
hooked on
love
stuff
my
like that.
Pepsi with ice. Now I only drink it with rum.
Apparently Coca-Cola is actually more of a problem in Mexico. It's a huge problem in Mexico. I saw a little short film about it where they have like serious
Why is it?
diabetes epidemic in
Oh
Mexico
yeah,
right now.
yeah,
And
for
people
sure.
will drink Coke instead of water like all the time. They're just drinking Coke all the time.
They're ruining their kidneys.
Well,
Is
and
what they're doing.
kidneys and teeth and livers and all of that
Eh,
stuff. It's
Yeah,
unbelievable. But I think
it's
I,
gross.
oh, go ahead, Joe.
yeah, I pulled up an article here. Mexico took the title of most obese from the U.S.
He took it.
What?
Sorry, America.
Right?
Eat your
He said
heart out.
they
Literally.
weren't a
Mexico's
first.
the
Yeah,
most obese from.
the USA.
Yeah, Mexico.
They're fat
Yeah.
Mexicans.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Yes, they
That's the
have
thing.
a huge sugar problem.
Mhm.
Oh,
They're
I
closer to
didn't
the
know
sugar
that.
canes, I guess. Not just high
It's
fructose corn
fructose.
syrup.
It's Coca-Cola. It's that stuff. Yeah, it's pretty
Oh
bad.
my god.
Pretty bad.
Yeah.
It's amazing what what you find out when you go outside of
Oh my god.
the normal everything that
That's
you've
too
heard.
bad.
Hmm.
Isn't
Yeah.
Mexico supposed to be like our sister? I know Australia is. Isn't Mexico
Well,
supposed to be
Mexico's our little
fine?
sister that was abducted by the cartels and now has a
Yeah.
cocaine problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, true. I
So in a way,
I've heard good things about Mexicans.
yeah,
But
in one way, it's kind of good. At least they're not starving to death.
no,
Oh,
true.
man. Brutal.
Unlike myself.
Oh, brutal.
Like I've learned how to bake. I've learned how to bake cakes, everything. I've learned how to make my own potato chips, like out of necessity, because I can't afford the Lay's,
Oh, yeah, right.
right? And who I look at store baked things now, and I'm like, it's not work. I can bake a better cake at home. So I've learned how to bake. I've learned how to do
Because it's
all
just
kinds of.
cheaper. It is cheaper.
It's cheaper. Yeah,
I think
yeah.
we're moving into an economy because of this stuff that's going on right now, and
Mm-hmm.
we're going into an economy where people are going to start having to reduce, reuse, recycle. I mean, let's get back
Mm-hmm.
to that. Whatever happened to that? We stopped doing that. We all care about the climate, and we don't care about the environment much anymore. But I think when
The
people
environment washing across the road down the road here, it's not shown well on the Atlantic coast.
well, I just mean out of necessity. People are because they're gonna have less money in this economy
Yeah.
moving forward. People are gonna start. But if you look back, there was the Great Depression, and people were so
Mm-hmm.
much more innovative at that time.
Yes.
Instead of needing new stuff all the time, people were able to find amazing ways of
Making it work.
making it work, coming together and doing things. And
Mm-hmm.
I think we might be moving into one of those times again.
My grandmother lived through the Depression, and Oh my God. She said she ate more lobster. She would scream at the price of lobster in Nova Scotia today
Right.
because it was the poor man's food when she was a kid. So
Right.
she was brought up on lobster. Um, what was I going to say about Nana? Oh fuck, I forget. Oh, I forget.
The poor times during the Depression.
Oh, Nana in the Depression, like that's where she learned how to bake. That's where she, learned everything. In the 30s, and she didn't start having kids until oh, maybe late 30s. She was pregnant for like 13 years straight.
That's something else.
11 pregnancies and 8 healthy children, all over 8 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah, see, this is why I'm saying she didn't have doctors crawling all over her stomach to see if the baby was going to be well born,
Right. It
but
was
she
just
had 8 healthy, big babies.
yeah. That's that's beautiful. It's
Yeah.
I mean a lot of people
I,
would love
I
to
want
have
to
a
tell my
family like
sister
that.
in law, I want to tell my sister in law, try getting pregnant, just carry it through and see what happens. I bet the baby will come out just as beautiful as baby number one without the amnio, without, people are too panicky and they are too quick to label women as high risk. High risk, you're high risk, you're high risk.
Everybody's high
I've
risk
had,
these days. If you
yes.
if you look at it, I mean, the WHO said we're still in an emergency pandemic just last week. So
Oh,
we're all
are
high
we?
risk right now. We're still high risk. Everybody's high risk. We're gonna live in a high risk world forever. If it's not terrorism alert charts with color coded risk
Oh.
charts, it's gonna be some other kind of
It
high risk.
seems to have gotten way
It,
worse
it
from
will
when
in
I was
it will until
a
it just
kid.
becomes too comical and everybody lets it go. I think that's the natural evolution of it. I think that's the
Like the
course.
cancel culture and
Yeah.
why can't we learn from our mistakes?
Uh, I don't know if it's even human nature anymore.
No, it isn't. No, it's not. It's not right. It's completely backwards. It's all about money. It's not about family. And when you step out of the country, you see it, and you come home and you go, uh, I like I saw happy families and lots of twins when I was in the UK. Um, happy,
Hmm.
happy families.
Hmm.
We don't see like kids out on the street playing. We don't see that here.
Well,
We,
well, everybody's afraid. Everyone's the helicopter parents, right? They're watching after the
yeah.
kids. They don't let them out of their
Well,
sight.
how did I make it through child? Like Jesus Christ, my mother would put me out on a bike without a helmet with one arm and send me to the tennis courts, like
Off you go. Have fun. I
on
can't
a
imagine that.
highway.
I don't want to be one of those helicopter parents, and I don't think I necessarily
No.
am because I'm like kids go play in
Oh,
the yard or whatever. I let them, but I'm not letting my kids go off just anywhere. That's not happening. We live in a totally
have,
different
have,
world.
have you seen Old Enough? Oh, you must know that. I think it's Japan. They send their toddlers to the grocery store to do grocery shopping.
You know what? I'll have to say I've been out on the subway and I remember seeing so many like really 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 small kids.
Really small
Yeah,
kids. Yeah,
on the
they
trains. I
send
don't know what the
them.
rules are, but like the kids going to school, they'll go to school by themselves from a pretty early age in Japan.
you've not seen this on Netflix, have you?
No, but I hear it's changing there too, and like people are becoming less trustful because people are more and more nervous because of situations that have happened, and people
Oh, those sweet
doing awful
little
things.
babies. Yeah. Which brings me right around to how did we survive childhood? Like, I don't know. It was a more
I
it
think
was
we're
more
robust. We're robust, but I think it was a different time and a different
yeah.
thought. There's a phenomena, right, where when society gets more wealthy, people have less and less children. They have a different risk
Hmm.
benefit analysis on child rearing and all this stuff. Um, Whereas when you're quite impoverished, it's like make a lot of them. That's my
Have they?
retirement, right? I have a lot of
Yes. Yes.
babies. But then in a
Yes.
rich society, you tone that back, and it's almost like to our detriment because we're looking at population collapse at this point. And
Mm-hmm.
right now in Canada, they're actually opening up the floodgates to immigration so that we can pay the bills, the unfunded liability of all the promises that we've made to so many people, right? So
And we're having troubles hanging on to those immigrants. Have you seen?
that's an issue. Immigrants are coming here, they're getting their education or
They're
whatever, and
going,
then they're going,
oh no,
maybe it's not for me.
no, this isn't what I thought it would be. I'm going elsewhere, and they leave.
Well, I mean, just look at the prospects, right? So you come to a country for 9 months of the year. In most places, it's unbearably cold, and you're taxed up the
Through
wazoo.
the laws.
And then you ask the population, well, why am I taxed so high? We got free healthcare, don't we? You go to
No,
a
we
hospital
don't.
and you're like, I'm out. And if you're not from here, for a lot of people, and this is the argument why there's a lot of economic migrants, because people will come here because there's an opportunity to make money, but it's like
Yeah.
they don't really necessarily want to be here, and then
No.
they don't end up trying to assimilate and become part of our culture and all that stuff, right? And
Yeah,
I'm all
I think.
for people that want to come here and live here and be here and become Canadian. That's awesome. I think that's fantastic.
Hmm.
But it's a different story when it's just an economic migrant thing, because they eventually will move on and they won't stick around, and that's not beneficial.
Yeah, the refugee situation, they're almost stuck here.
Well, I mean, so
Really, when you
I'm
think
okay
about
with
it.
refugees that want to come here, and then
Oh, I love them. I love them.
but
Peace by chocolate.
but
Um,
oh, go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Peace by chocolate. A Syrian refugee family landed in Antigonish, and Antigonish is down the eastern shore, and it's like one university town. Like, it's so small, and they were chocolatiers in Syria. So they got this idea, Peace by Chocolate. And they make the most delicious chocolate in the world. I swear to God, I have never had chocolate. They're now downtown Halifax. They set up shop. They are hiring people. They are hardworking.
No, that's fantastic. I like hearing that.
Yeah,
I like hearing stories like
yeah.
that.
I love hearing what when they were first arriving, and the Ukrainians as well. Like, I hate that they're coming from what they came from, but welcome. Like,
The other issue with refugees, though, is the treaties that were signed, I guess, after the Second World War. The arrangement was refugee status would be a situation that was meant to be temporary, and then you would go to a neighboring state, the closest neighboring state that was peaceful, and then the arrangements would be you would be housed and kept in those places, and then as soon as the conflict was over, you'd be introduced back to your country. Now,
oh,
that's the original arrangements. Refugee has just become another form of immigration for people, and this is where a lot of people have take exception to it. And and they say, "Oh, well, we want to
Okay.
be humanitarian, but this isn't the purpose of the refugee agreements that we've made all this time ago. If they want to immigrate, there's another procedure for that, and
Right.
and
And
that's
they're calling asylum to get in. I hear
that's
you.
yeah, that's right. So like I don't like to take a position that I'm anti-immigration, but I
No,
want people to come through the
no.
proper channels, and that's all I've ever asked.
I remember when I was running the rental agency, a big boom came through from Great Britain. I was dealing with the Brits left and right. Oh my God, they couldn't get rid of their cars, their homes. They had the same crisis as the States did. Remember when the real estate market went
Oh,
splat, the market went splat?
oh, so a bunch
The
of them
poor
came over
Brits
here.
came over
I
here.
didn't know that.
And oh my God, they'd land in Nova Scotia. They'd be calling me. I'd be going, yeah, another one. Like, like I got another Brit. And I'd be running them to homes in Bedford, like great big beautiful mansions. I never dealt with apartments. I dealt with homes, solid homes, not prefab, not anything. I'd only deal with homes. And if the landlords didn't have 20 grand in their bank accounts, I was sure to ask that, because what if a hurricane comes along and rips your roof off? I needed to see proof of insurance. I needed everything
Right,
before I put these relocations into a house. And I was known to walk away from more landlords for being a little bit scuzzy, because my relocations were above grade.
right.
They'd leave the homes in better shape than the owners presented them in.
Yeah, so you had quality tenants that you were bringing in.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes. And they were beautiful, and they went through the proper channels. And I'll never forget this one Australian man. He couldn't wait to get out. He was like, "This place is fucked." I said, "Oh my God." And he went running back down to Australia
wow.
because his wife was a nurse. That's why his wife was a nurse, and she couldn't get any work in Canada without going to Dalhousie University and redoing her nursing after being a nurse
Yeah,
in Australia for 15 years.
yeah.
So he said, "Fuck this," and he left.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous
Yeah.
what they're putting people through. But they're opening it up now. They're opening it up now in British Columbia. They're opening it up uh, so people can have that relaxed a little bit. But they're not hiring back nurses that refuse to get the vaccines. That's something that's occurring here in British Columbia, and depends on
Oh,
what province you look at. There's issues like that.
I thought that the vaccine mandates were gone, but I guess not in
Not in
healthcare.
healthcare, no.
No, and I understand just because of the elderly. Did you hear about the elderly in the homes?
Which case? We heard
A
about what
bunch
happened
of
in New
them.
York. That was devastating.
In Canada. Oh, New York, Staten Island. 57,000 people are buried on Staten Island.
That meant what? Is that
Yeah,
accurate? I don't.
COVID. That's what I heard from my friend. Yeah. Um, they were. Don't you remember the refrigeration trucks?
No, no,
They were low.
no. I do remember a story about they were taking COVID positive patients and putting them in facilities with the elderly in New York, and tons of people were,
Dying.
yeah, they were dying because of it.
Oh, that's a good way to get rid of the elder. Yep.
Well, I don't know how that
Oh,
came to be, but yeah, that was under
that's
Cuomo.
bad.
Cuomo was the governor, I guess, at the time, and that was all
Oh
on
my
his
God.
watch.
Well, I'm talking about the nursing homes throughout Atlantic Canada that I was witness to. They were left with no nursing. No one would go in.
What?
So they called in the Canadian Army, and the Army went in, and I can't remember it all just now. Joe, can you look it up? um, yeah, the Canadian Army went in and found these people
How
laying in their own feces.
how
Like it
long were they
was
sitting there? What?
during COVID. They this happened during COVID,
Yeah, and
and
how long were they sitting there with no healthcare workers? There was nobody?
a good week. I guess the military was just absolutely shocked, shocked at what was going on.
So they just
Bed
reneged on all
sores.
of their responsibilities. And Joe, do you have anything on that? Can you pull anything?
Yeah, I found something about the York Island burials that everybody remembers pictures of.
Mm.
Apparently, they get into the numbers. By this point in 2020, 5,800 people had died in New York City. But they're also saying that the pandemic increased the quantity of people going through this. But this burial style in such a dense, compact city is ongoing practice. It's not something new to the area.
Hmm.
It's it's a mass grave.
Yeah, that they've been doing for many, many years now.
Yes, it's
Oh,
not a new thing.
It's just
okay.
because
So
there's
that's where
so
the
many
number came
people.
from. Okay.
Yeah, and then the number, well, I saw it right here. New York City had more than 92,000 cases and 5,800 deaths as of April 2020. So it wasn't. There's quite a few more that happened since then, but yeah, it increased their numbers, and
It
this
was not.
picture went super viral because it lacked some context.
Right. I do vaguely
Yeah.
remember it, but I didn't know what the details were from that one.
Uh,
If you
yeah,
can if
is
you can find something on the
unfortunate.
if you can find something on the no was it you said it was in Nova Scotia?
Nursing homes.
The nursing
Nursing homes.
homes?
I think it was up in Cape Breton and in New Brunswick.
That's horrifying. I can't imagine
And their
everybody just
families weren't
abandons their
allowed in.
post. They just abandon their
Their
post and
fam-
walk away.
their families weren't allowed in to visit them, so they they didn't know what was happening to them, and they were rotting.
That's unreal. That's unbelievable. Like,
Elderly people who paid their taxes, who worked their entire lives,
yeah.
dying in their own feces. Like,
So
that's not.
we're wondering what's going to happen if there's a population collapse in North America. So say I mean we're on our way to economic downturn, and with economic
Mhm.
downturn, there's going to be less incentive for people to come. Um, immigration is not going to.
Yeah.
I mean, they could open the doors, but that doesn't mean anything.
No, why would people want to come here? Oh my god. I can't believe I said that. But it's cold, it's expensive. Like, I can't believe Nova Scotia, the real estate has gone up so high that all the real estate agents are just like trotting around like, mm,
They're gonna be villains pretty soon. I'm not kidding.
they're villains now.
Oh,
They're
okay.
villains.
Yeah.
Shame on them. And it's because of people running from the bigger cities to Nova Scotia as a retirement place. They've priced us out of our own communities.
Yeah. It's happening everywhere, though.
Like,
It's happening
yeah,
everywhere.
like little old Chesapeake that I spoke of earlier. Houses are going for $500,000, and I'm going like, it's not worth. It's a marsh. It's a stinky.
It's a
It's a
stinky
stinky
marsh.
marsh.
So I live in a really
Like,
nice
what?
place, but I don't live in a place where you would think that townhouses go for $980,000 for a townhouse, like an attached townhouse. Like that's the price in British
Oh.
Columbia. A friend of mine, he went to Hawaii recently, and he
Where do you, how are you living?
so oh, right. So a friend of mine, he went to Hawaii recently, and he got back, and I was like, "Oh my god, how was Hawaii? It must have been great." And he's like, "Oh, it was just a kind of a staycation." His partner's from there, and so she grew up there. And I was like, "Oh man, if I ever went to Hawaii, I'd have a hard time leaving. I might,
I would-
like, I might look for a job." And he's like, "Oh yeah, but the what does he say? He said real estate's really expensive and the healthcare is terrible." I'm like, well, enough about Canada. How's Hawaii?"
Yeah. Enough about yeah,
And
that's
he's like,
just
"Oh, good
it.
point." I was like, "Well, the difference is the weather, right?"
Yeah, the weather is warmer. You can survive. Like, Nova Scotia Power keeps hiking rates here. It's unbelievable. They're blaming it on hurricanes. We may get one hurricane, bad one, every couple of years.
Yeah, but it's always been that way, right?
All right. I found an article here. Coronavirus, 31 dead, elderly covered in feces at Dorval long-term care facility.
That's it.
They're saying at least 31 deaths since March 13th. And it's for that 31, they take care of about 150 residents. So it's a substantial death rate amongst the old and elderly. And then,
They
where did
were
I see it?
young.
Right here. Local healthcare officials first arrived on March 29th and found a lot of staff had deserted the facility,
That's insane.
leaving many residents lying in soiled beds without having been fed. 2 patients died soon after the intervention, and at least 5 of the deceased patients were confirmed to have COVID-19. So it sounds like some of the death wasn't specifically due to the coronavirus itself, but due to the neglect that these facilities provided the people that they were looking after. And these are facilities, families are spending thousands of dollars to house their
They're
elderly
elderly
in.
parents, they're loved ones, and I can't get
Yeah.
over it. My grandmother was left like that.
Mhm.
I'm
Right
glad
here.
she's gone. I'm glad they're gone. I'm glad they're gone because, and my parents are in good shape. Thank God. Thank God. Because what if something happens to them? They will be gone.
Yep.
That's just
No
Yeah.
help.
horrendous.
Well, there you learned something from me, Clyde. I can't believe this.
Yeah, what do you have highlighted there, Joe?
Right here it's highlighting just it charges thousands of dollars per month. That's multiple thousands per month for housing and care for each resident.
And they just abandoned their posts,
And they
that was
just
it.
abandoned their post and left these people to die
Yep.
in Canada.
That's
Can't believe that.
nursing for you.
I can't believe that. Where was that, in Nova Scotia?
I think it was New Brunswick.
New
wasn't
That's
Brunswick.
Quebec, I think.
Okay.
it? Quebec.
This one's at least it's Quebec Premier Francois Legault was talking about it
Yeah.
in Montreal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Quebec was
There
one of
was
the
another
worst.
one
One of the
in
worst
Brunswick.
provinces for the whole pandemic. They had it really bad. Insane.
That's sad.
I can't believe that.
Mm.
I can't believe that. And we just keep hearing more stories about where this country's going. Where's the bottom? Where is the bottom? Is the
I think we're at the bottom, and we're slipping down beneath the bottom. Beneath the sludge. I think we're slipping.
we're digging deeper, hey? We're way under.
digging real deep.
We're
We're
looking for that
we're
permafrost
halfway
underneath.
to China. We're halfway to China.
That's insane.
We're halfway, like, through the earth. When we were kids, we dig holes. Mom would say, you're digging a hole to chime, because we dig big holes. And she'd just say that, like,
Like a
you're
dead man
digging,
falls in your backyard.
yeah, you're gonna wake up and you're gonna be in China. Like, yeah, yeah, because they're on the other side, right? So dig through the earth. Yeah, yeah.
Annabel, it's been 3 hours we've been
I
chatting.
know. I think it's been more.
I wanna thank you so much for
1:39.
joining me tonight for having this.
How much of this will be aired?
We're gonna air the whole thing. The whole thing will go.
Oh, okay, that's good. That's
I'm
good.
gonna cut the
Okay.
part where we went to the washroom, but that's about it.
Yeah, obviously.
So where can people find
Um,
you on TikTok and
TikTok, Instagram, but that's
what's the
not
name on
the
TikTok?
Annabelle Cecilia is the name. Just Annabelle Cecilia. Um, oh God. That's my handle. Just Annabelle.Cecilia. And yeah, I'm just doing TikToks there. I was thinking about doing YouTube, but the thing about that, Clyde, is I can't commit.
Fair enough. But you're
I
gonna
can't commit
but you're
to
gonna commit to
anything.
this Ottawa trip.
Yes.
you're gonna go to this
Oh yeah.
and
Pulling
then
this off, even if I throw up all over Parliament Hill, I'm pulling it off.
I might have to bring you on your cell phone while you're there and just get you
Oh
on
yeah, for
for a
sure.
show for a segment for that. Probably
Yep.
not one of these 3 hour ones, but
No.
it's a privilege and I really appreciate it and thank you for joining me tonight and sharing your story, sharing what it is that you're going through so that Canadians can understand. People in other
Yeah.
countries that choose to view this can understand and know
Don't
exactly what's
do it.
going on here.
Other countries don't do it. Don't do it to to
Yeah.
yourselves. It's not proper. Um,
One final thing. I just want to pull this up for everybody again if anybody's just tuning later on in the premiere.
yes.
This is the Give Send Go if you wish to support Annabelle and her journey.
Link will
Yes,
be in the
please.
description down below.
I've paid for the train. I've paid for the signs. I've somehow, by miracle, I'm gonna get there, but I don't know how I'm gonna get home. I don't know where I'm staying. Um, yeah, I need some help in that aspect, and I need some help picking the right spot where the politicians go in.
Maybe we'll get some locals to come help you out with that.
For
Yes,
sure.
I'm thinking about getting the locals, and I'll be there if there's enough money in the Give Sun Go account. I'll be there with Tim Horton saying, "Good morning. I'm here to talk to you guys. I'm a friendly Canadian. Here you go." Like, like I'm able to talk. I'm not one to scream obscenities. You know, I'm going to talk.
Well, I hope you get that conversation. Annabelle,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Thank you. I gotta get to bed. It's 1:30 in the morning.